songs, you cover your wounds, but underneath them a million voices in your head that whisper, stop now. Another twist of the knife, a turn of the screws, it's all in your mind, and it's fighting you on yourself. The storm is coming. Wow, kid, what you gonna do now? It's your reflection looking back to pull you down. So are you gonna die today or make it out alive? You gotta conquer the monster in your head, and then you'll fly, fly, Phoenix fly. It's time for a new empire. Go bury your demons, then tear down the ceiling, Phoenix fly. And now you're playing with matches, come out of the ashes underneath you. A million voices in the crowd, they're screaming, stop now. Well, let them swallow the pride, you're turning the tides, it's true believers. Got them in the palm of your hand, you're playing God now. What you gonna do now? It's your reflection looking back to pull you down. So are you gonna die today or make it out alive? You gotta conquer the monster in your head, and then you'll fly, fly, Phoenix fly. It's time for a new empire. Go bury your demons, then tear down the ceiling.
G'day, everybody. Welcome back for another night of VCS action here on VCS English, the best source of English VCS action. In fact, it's your only source. You're stuck with us. And my name is Everyday. With me are the two men whose IQ totals numbers you wouldn't believe, even over 5. I can't count any. It's Vinnie and Yulwei. How are we tonight, lads? I don't know. But go ahead, lads. How have you been? What do we think about this week of VCS action?
So what I'm hearing is Yulwei has 4 IQ. At least.
I mean, the difference between 4 IQ and 1 IQ, I don't think is anything that matters.
I'm pretty sure you're dead.
Yeah.
But let's crack on, lads. Moving past my pathetic attempts at comedy, let's rock. What have we got tonight? Let's not talk about tonight. Of course, we want to start with a bit of a recap of. Punched my mic and he only hit the mute button. Well done. Every day. It's a great start to the night. Let's talk about sort of where the league is at. Because it's a bit weird. Still weird. Even are things returning to normalcy? 𝗧𝗲𝗿𝗃 got a win. Are they going to get
slowly getting there? So I think after 3 weeks we can see some trends. We saw improvements from Flash and 𝗧𝗲𝗿, but the pace at which they are improving is not very, very high or very quick, so I feel like they're still very far behind the top teams. I am very excited for our 2 top teams, though. I feel like Cerberus and Team Secret have really elevated the level, maybe even of the whole league, looking at teams like Percent coming in and also looking great. And I feel like the best way to gauge the strength of VCS is to look at 𝗀𝗄𝗃 and look where they place, because they play the same way every single time, right? So they are in 3rd position right now, but +1 in game score, so very far behind those top 2 teams, and that's a good sign, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree. Vinny, do you have any takes on the current state of the league?
I would say returning to normalcy is not the correct term to use, but more we've established what the new normal is. We know it's Secret and Cerberus at the top.
Jeez, I didn't know you were an American journalist. Is this the new normal? That's a very dumb joke, but continue, sorry.
Yeah. Thanks. The train's gone.
Crack on, mate. Sorry, mate. No, crack on. I'm just completely
so we have Cerberus and Secret at the top. Then we have sort of Percent and 𝗀𝗄𝗃 sitting at that 2nd tier. Percent, it's sort of hard to say because 𝗀𝗄𝗃 and Percent have the same game difference, but Percent's like 2 and 2, 𝗀𝗄𝗃's 3 and 1, and that sort of comes down to strength of schedule more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree.
The only real blemish for Percent right now is that loss to Buffalo, who is currently bottom feeding despite great expectations.
The only win for Saigon Buffalo. It was a 2-0. Very surprising to look back now. So he's strange.
Yeah, it really was. So I think we definitely now know what to expect from the VCS. And if I say that, I'm going to jinx it, and then it's going to go on its head again. But we know 𝗧𝗲𝗿𝗃, Flash, they're definitely not the worst team now.
Yes, OPG is firmly the worst lead. So we have one thing we can actually say about the VCS, and all of us agree on it, because we don't even agree on who's the best team, because Yulwei is a black sheep. But let's stop living in the past. Let's crack on to the future with this week. What are some matches we're excited for? What are we thinking about this one? Because I reckon this is going to be our best week so far.
Oh, yeah. So many good matches. I'm especially hyped for the first and the last match. If we can pull up the schedule. I'm not sure if we have that in our production, but yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we do.
Look at all these matches. Cerberus against Percent is the first we start with. Great match. But then 𝗀𝗄𝗃 against Team Secret. That is my match to watch, our match of the week, the very last one on Sunday. But even in between, we have Percent against 𝗧𝗲𝗿𝗃. Should be a great match, especially from the 𝗧𝗲𝗿𝗃's perspective. See if they can come up to a 2-4 record. And then Flash against 𝗀𝗄𝗃 later tonight. Also very important. Finals rematch. Super interesting one.
Yeah, 100% it
is.
The
Flash series are very important to see. Is Flash actually improving, or were they just sort of lucky in their last 2 wins? Because their match against 𝗧𝗲𝗿𝗃 was pretty shocking.
It was awful. Let's
That
not
was-
sugarcoat it. It was awful.
It was shocking. And that was of course compounded by tech issues, which kept the players on for hours, and so they were
That is fair.
They were
That is
exhausted by the
a
end.
fair asterisk.
Because I mean, then you saw 𝗲𝗏𝗏 come in the next day and completely roll over OPG, and they looked very clean and all that. So it's very important to see, was Flash sort of just cruising again, like sort of taking advantage of a obviously struggling Buffalo who has very clear draft weaknesses, and were they just sort of lucky to get a sort of shitfest against 𝗲𝗏𝗏?
Yeah, I mean, that's the appropriate word. But we'll move on swiftly to things we might expect to see this week in On the Rift. Let's have a look at the champions that are defining the VCS at the moment. I think we have a graphic for it. If we get it up and we can rock and roll on that one. What do you guys think of the VCS's meta read so far? This is pretty standard, honestly. I think the only weird one here is Nidalee being that high. Yep. She's not absent in other regions, but she's not that high prior.
She has always been the VCS special, right? And even seasons past, where she was played last split, when no one else played Nidalee. That was before the big buffs to her Q came in, and even then, people like Zorn, I think Levi as well played some Nidalee games. So we definitely see a lot of Nidalee. Actually, interesting that she's higher up than Graves, which I of course like because I don't like Graves. But today we might see a lot of Grace once again. Syndra still being the number one priority surprised me last week with the nerfs coming in. But looking at other regions too, she is still very much the go-to mid lane blind pick that we see all across the world.
Yeah, which is strange. I mean, you say all across the world. I think Orianna is poking her head in other regions. VCS has not mastered that champion yet. For sure. We have some good Orianna players at pressing the buttons and then they lose to the shopkeeper all the time, which is very unfortunate to see. But overall, I'm kind of happy that these are the champions at a high priority because it's a better meta read than the VCS has had in the past, I think.
Yeah, the only thing I do question which isn't necessarily a meta read in terms of like a bad meta read, it's the sort of set priority we see, because I don't know if it's just we're bad at set or just people seem to think Set's a better champion than he actually is, or he's like overperforming in scrims or something. But Set is just not putting in what is needed. Like he's been picked a lot in support and he's not winning. He's like barely winning. He has a 20% win rate overall.
Speaking of barely winning, 𝗬𝗏𝗏 is another candidate. Man, this champion has been sucking so badly in the VCS.
The point I was about to make about Set 100% applies to 𝗬𝗏𝗏 as well. Yeah. Is they're picking too early in the draft and they're not looking at what the other team can actually do. Because they're like, oh, he's 𝗬𝗏𝗏, it's broken. Set is broken. It's like, yeah, but the enemy team all has mobility. You are just going to get kited and die. That is it.
Yeah, 𝗬𝗏𝗏 is 1-7 so far. So I'm really interested to see if we still see high 𝗬𝗏𝗏 priority right now, or if teams have moved away from that pick. Because of course it's still a very, very strong early game champ, especially in the jungle position. But if you can't really accomplish much in the early game, it falls off a cliff later on. It's so easy to kite and just dies in team fights as a full tank. Doesn't really contribute much damage. Doesn't really do anything else. So
he can run Predator now, though. At least I think Predator is now allowed on 𝗬𝗏𝗏. That bug was fixed.
Yeah.
A lot of pros don't like the new Predator, though. A lot of pros said it's too little and the damage got nerfed too hard. So
yeah, I would agree with that. But let's move on to a little special treat to round out our talk about general VCS things. Our big man Yulwei with the bulging brains has made us something a little bit special. If we want to crack over to that one, and we'll see you right after.
In this video, I will take a look at the ability of two of the VCS's teams to read their team composition and play according to their win condition in teamfights. In week 3 of the VCS summer split, 𝗀𝗏𝗏 faced off against the Saigon Buffalo. In game 1, the teams decided to draft the team compositions on screen. 𝗖𝗄𝗽𝗏𝗄𝗏 built a very tanky, CC-heavy composition with strong engage tools from 𝗀, Tank, 𝗏𝗏𝗥𝗃 and Pantheon. While all of these champs can teamfight well and set up other champs for success, they do not possess the consistent damage to outright carry teamfights. Here, that role is only fulfilled by 𝗖𝗃. She has to stay alive, while all of the tanky champs buy space and time for her to kill target after target. The later the game goes, the more this will be true, as the base damages from other champs will fall off and become less and less relevant. Therefore, a close formation with clear battle lines and protection for the soul carry is necessary. 𝗀𝗃, on the other hand, has drafted almost the polar opposite team composition. They forwent a tank altogether and decided to put together a team that has strong individual champs with relatively little synergy. 𝗀𝗃's way to win fights in a 5v5 setup is to overwhelm SGB with sheer damage and turn the fight into small skirmishes in which the strong individual parts can shine. Breaking the close formation and attacking from different angles will be means to overcome 𝗖𝗄𝗽𝗏𝗄𝗏's front-to-back setup. Let's dive into the game. We will take a look at 3 different fights in this game to see how the two teams play around their team compositions. The first fight we'll look at is initiated by 𝗀𝗃 around 11 minutes into the game. At this point, 𝗀𝗃 is very far behind. After a few successful early ganks and some intelligent dives, 𝗖𝗄𝗽𝗏𝗄𝗏 has accrued a massive gold lead. As you can see, SGB control the river and make the judgment to just kill the dragon without grouping every single member around the objective. 𝗀𝗃 utilized the unique ganking ability from Bard to kill an overextended 𝗖𝗃 in bot lane. At this point, SGB could have just cut their losses and walked away with the dragon. Instead, they call on everyone and force a fight. A very good Bard play delays SGB's entry to the fight, but more importantly, 𝗀𝗃 has more damage between their players, even this far down in gold. Shyvana, Jayce and the 0-3 heavily camped Sylas provide much more consistent DPS, even from a severe deficit. 𝗖𝗄𝗽 ends up getting a quadra kill in this play, and 𝗀𝗃 claws the gold back, closing the gap. Now there's only 1000 gold between the teams. Note that 𝗀𝗃's ADC arrived very late and did almost nothing in this fight. 5 minutes later, when both teams are ready to fight for the next dragon, SGB once again find themselves in an advantageous position in the river. This time everyone is grouped up, and 𝗖𝗄𝗽𝗏𝗄𝗏 advance in the intended formation. 𝗖𝗃 stays behind the front line and waits for the tanks to get into position first. 𝗀𝗃 chase SGB away from Dragon and make the call to engage, as they know that 2 members from SGB are trailing behind and 𝗖𝗄𝗽𝗏𝗄𝗏 are outnumbered in the river. 𝗀𝗃 tries to burst Trundle, but SGB quickly turn on the aggressors using their abilities to re-engage, with 𝗏𝗏𝗥𝗏𝗏 ultimate and Pantheon following him. Even though 𝗏𝗃 is relatively close to the main target Trundle, it is impossible for 𝗀𝗃 to get on top of her, as 𝗏𝗏𝗥𝗏's ultimate, Trundle Pillar and the threat of a Pantheon stun zone them away. Notice too that 𝗖𝗄𝗽 didn't have an opportunity to steal 𝗏𝗏𝗥𝗏's ultimate and thus can't jump on top of 𝗏𝗃. This formation provides Styles with a lot of free time to auto-attack the closest target and SGB dominate the fight. With battle lines and terrain in SGB's favor, the one threat composition was able to win the fight. Lastly, another 5 minutes later, the game-deciding play happens in mid lane. Notice that 𝗖𝗄𝗽𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏 was able to secure another dragon and are now waiting for the 4th Drake to spawn and provide them with a win condition. 𝗀𝗃 spot 2 members in mid lane and immediately make the call to try and catch them out. A perfect Bard ultimate indeed connects, but 𝗖𝗄𝗽𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏 is able to reposition using their summoner spells. At this point, 𝗀𝗃 is in a very precarious situation, as the terrain as well as the positioning of all champs massively favors 𝗖𝗄𝗽𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏's composition. The turret makes it impossible for 𝗀𝗃 to jump even further forwards, giving 𝗏𝗃 the safety she needs to slowly pursue her targets. 𝗖𝗄𝗽𝗏𝗏𝗄𝗏 counter-engage using their strong CC tools and kill the enemy ADC. This is where the whole game turns around. SGB can see victory on the horizon, and if they kill 2 more players here, Baron should be an easy objective for them to take. Thus, they continue the chase and subsequently change the formation of their team again. Funneling further into the mid lane as 5, they move away from the safety of their turret and expose themselves to be attacked from different angles. 𝗀𝗃's composition does not rely on the DPS of their ADC. In fact, at this point, Gensler's Varus is very far behind and does not add much to the team. 𝗖𝗄𝗽 and Year1 jump onto 𝗏𝗃 and kill her very quickly, as she lost her flash earlier in the fight and all the protective CC was used to chase. Both teams have lost their ADC at this point, but this is by no means an equal trade. 𝗀𝗲𝗄 wiped the floor with the rest of SGB easily and killed Baron afterwards. They assume control of the game and win after 2 more teamfights that follow the same formula. Even though 𝗀𝗄𝗃 got destroyed in the early game, they were able to win 5v5 teamfights, reading both compositions better than SGB. Whether 𝗀𝗄𝗃 can replicate this success against the better teams in the league remains.
Welcome back, everybody. You did miss the end of that there, unfortunately, but it's all right. Let's crack on. Oops. How do we think this first series is going to go? We have Cerberus, the best team in the league, according to most people. Yulwei, I know, but Team Secret's not playing, so it doesn't matter. Taking on
I can't fanboy now.
who many people have referred to as baby Cerberus. So what do we think about this one, lads?
Go ahead, Vinnie.
So in theory, if one team is just playing, if 2 teams are playing the exact same way and one's just better, that team should basically win most games. So in this case, I think it's basically going to be that, unless we do see some amazing 1v9 performances out of certain players. I'm not going to name names, but everyone knows who I'm talking about. But so yeah, we're going to see reasonably slow early game, hopefully good map rotations out of both in the mid to late games. Some good team fights, and then Cerberus just wins because they're slightly better.
Yeah. That's sadly pretty likely to happen. I also echo the point that it's very unlikely for Percent to overcome Cerberus because they play a very similar style. Percent just has some deficiencies where Cerberus is further developed, you could say. Especially the early game, their stats are actually the opposite. Cerberus is ahead 1,400 gold on average at 50 minutes, while Percent on the other side is behind almost the exact same amount. So it's very likely that Cerberus will get another early game lead. Looking at their drafts, I really want to see Percent go back to their drafts from week 1 and 2. Because week 3 drafts were a little bit questionable for me. They had one very good one against Team Secret, but then the other 2 games, they played those short-range compositions, those comms, they can't really teamfight too well, especially from behind. And I feel like they have to acknowledge the fact that they are not the greatest early game team. They are a very solid mid and late game team. So just try to draft to that, and maybe you can get through the early game, maybe you can weather the storm and get to a late game and can shine in your very good teamfight coordination.
That is what we want.
And
sorry, Vinnie.
Yeah, in this case, you really only have one player that sort of role for role should be, I guess, considered to perform, maybe not performing better, but should be considered as a strength you can actually take advantage of, and that's in the mid lane. So I don't want to see Orianna, because Orianna can't really push and unlock glory on the map. Same sort of thing with like his Azir. He sort of just he doesn't really move on these types of champions. He moves really well on his Zoe. He moves well on things like the Lissandra. I want champions that can push the wave and just move. I want him to be able to impact the map, because if he's just stuck in mid lane, yeah, he's better than 𝗂𝗄𝗏, but 𝗂𝗂𝗏's good enough to just make that a non-factor. In comparison to, say, the bot lane, where Artemis versus Big Koro, like Koro's been performing fine, and so has Lisa, but
Artemis,
it's not Artemis in OP, is it?
Yeah,
so
Artemis
that's the thing,
has
right?
been carving the league up, unfortunately. So even with Koro looking better than we expect, it's rough. But let's talk about the other half of the bot lane matchup, the supports, because let's be honest, coming in to the VCS split, me and Yulwei, fortunately Vinnie wasn't there, it was just the Everyway duo, did a little experiment where we assigned every VCS player a value from 1 to 5 and tried to build a team with only 15 points to spend. And it was good fun. We wanted to give Lisa 0 points because he was that bad. He genuinely could have not connected to their promotion games, and I would not have noticed much of a difference. However, Vinnie, I think you've got a bit of a different opinion of him now. and I think we share it with you. But go ahead and tell us a bit about Lisa.
So yeah, Lisa coming in. I was the one who casted that tournament. Yulwei wasn't able, or what?
It
I'm
was
not
me, yeah.
actually sure.
4 in the morning,
But
man.
It was me.
Yeah, it was
yeah.
at 4 a.m.
And I was like watching. I was like, oh, this team is terrible. This is Glory 1v9. What is this support player doing? Oh, he had an okay game on Bard, I guess. So he's a Bard one trick, and even then he's not even that great on Bard. Comes in first game. Oh, I'm vindicated. Look at him. That Thresh terrible. Glory still 1v9s that game, but the next game on Leona, he's amazing. He looks really clean on it. And then since then, sure, he hasn't had not every game's been a blowout knocking, but he hasn't had a game where it's like, since that first game, he hasn't had a game where it's like, it's Lisa-ing again. Lisa, you're tearing me apart, my guy. But
yeah.
So yeah, he's come up really good. His KDA, he's third never saw that coming when he was running it down. Really high kill participation. He's got a solid win rate on everything except the karma.
Yeah, and I don't think the karma was his fault. I actually think in those games, it was just a bad pick. That's not his fault. Coach tells him to pick it, he's got to do it.
I mean, that was those were the Buffalo games, and overall the draft was just kind of shocking.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't Lisa. It wasn't Lisa.
And like you look at his stats, they're still decent stats despite being both losses. Like 92% kill participation, basically 93. This man is doing work, and he's not top of the league, but he's sure as hell not the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. So Yulwei, why don't you talk about the man who is paired with arguably the best player in the league, Artemis? Can you tell us a little bit about Ron OP? Does he live up to his name? Is he OP?
So far, he is most certainly OP. He is one of the main contributors to the Bard win rate. Of course, Cerberus hasn't lost a game, so there's a 100% win rate for every single stat there, of course. 4 games on Bard, and he has been popping off on this champion, especially when it comes to team fights. His team fighting on Bard is insane. Laning phase for Artemis and Ron OP isn't really their strongest suit. They are for sure good laners, but not like the high highs of 𝗘𝘀𝗽𝗕𝗥𝗕𝗏 and B, for example, who really stomp lanes if they are on form. Artemis and Ron OP are much more about team fights, and every single stage of the game they can play in when it comes to team fighting. They're strong in late game, very good at mid game, and Ron OP knows exactly what to do when. He knows when to peel, but most of the time Artemis is very self-sufficient, and Ron OP can actually move more aggressively into the backline or try to go for picks with Bard, try to look for very strong stuns. His Thresh is insane, but look at that KDA number there for Bard. 17.3. It's absolutely insane. I want to see more Ron OP Bard. I feel like Bard will be a highly contested champ in the series, as is it's Lisa's main champ as well. So we can see some very cool playmaking champs here. And Ron OP so far hasn't really gone to the enchanters, which is quite surprising considering he has the best ADC. He plays with the best ADC in the league right now, Artemis. But this is not Cerberus' style. They want Ron OP on a playmaker, and so far he has repaid them big time.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason he hasn't gone to enchanters, sorry to edge in on your segment, but I just, had a bit of a thought, is he's too good at roaming. Look at his kill participation. Like, you don't really want to roam on the enchanters. You use them to bully the melee supports, obviously. But goddamn, the man on Thresh, he's got 82% kill participation on Thresh. What the hell?
He's everywhere. He's everywhere. And he oftentimes roams out of his lane, even before Artemis roams. So especially for like early Herald trades. Ron OP moves, but Artemis stays in lane. That's something Cerberus likes to do. And yeah, it has paid off so far. They are a very good duo. Right now, the best bot lane, in my opinion.
I don't think there's any bot lane that can contest that whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that at all.
But let's crack on a little bit, because we do have to be mindful of our time. Let's break it down, because we referred to this game as Cerberus versus Cerberus Jr. We've kind of explained where we come from on that, but let's have a look at some stats and the like. Why are we referring to it as Cerberus versus Cerberus Jr.? Yulwei, start us off. You can start us off, Yulwei. Sorry, Vinnie. I forgot to throw it this time.
That was a silence. So
That was a hosting fail, but Yulwei, get us
Oh,
going.
good. So, yeah, so the main that it doesn't really show in stats, but the main thing that is similar between the two teams is how they win games. It's all about team fighting. We have the top 3 teams in our league are Cerberus, Percent, and Team Secret. If you don't look at the record, because Gum's record is better than they are. So Percent and Cerberus both are very, very strong team fighting teams that like to play almost all parts of the game through team fighting. They start with early fights around Dragon, transition into fights around Baron, into taking those objectives. Especially Cerberus is very assertive when it comes to taking objectives. Percent not quite as much. What Percent is very special the special thing about Percent's team fighting is their ability to engage, especially when YT's on things like Malphite. Their engage coordination is insanely good, and they are also very good about taking picks. So both teams play a very similar style. We have carries in the bot lane mostly. It's a little bit different for Percent. They have Glory, of course. But overall, the game plan looks very similar between the two teams.
Absolutely.
yeah,
But-
and it's
Can you tell us a bit more from the Percent focus? You know, can you? I think there is a few differences between the teams. Like they are
there
very
a few
similar.
differences.
But can you tell us?
Yeah, you would
what's your
say
take?
that. Yeah, you say they're very much the same in the sense that their sort of strengths and weaknesses, they're like peaks a lot. If you line up their peaks and troughs in terms of where they're strongest, they line up, but they are of course they're at different levels. So Percent, I would say they're probably about on par for sort of maybe late game team fighting, but their early game is so much worse that they have to work that much harder to actually get that result going. So yeah, it's very much just if you watch the two teams and turned all the nameplates off, you'd see a very similar game plan to the point that you wouldn't really be able to pick out the team except until you look at, say, oh, well, this team lost harder in early game, so that's probably Percent.
Makes sense.
Yep, I agree. So, moving a little bit forward, even though we didn't really talk about stats, maybe we can talk about them in the next one. So we do have some prepared. I want you guys, I'm going to challenge you, and we'll start with Vinny, because you have been the biggest glory stan I've ever met. I've only met one, but it was you. And you've been very up on glory, quite rightfully. So you tell me, how does Percent win? And we have to cut this one a little bit short because I think they're getting ready for draft, but let's crack on.
Yeah, okay. So the short version is basically we see big carry performances out of Glory. We see him roam around. We either see him completely smash mid lane and make Yado a non-factor, and they can somehow steamroll through that, maybe a 1v9 Zoe performance again, or we see him get to the side lanes, keep Artemis within hitting distance of Big Karo, or keep Karo in hitting distance of Artemis, so it's not too much of a loss there. I don't think you have to impact top lane that much. I don't think LL will be able to steamroll YT. I mean, LL will probably do better, and he'll probably win lane, but he won't steamroll it. So I think that's probably, you're probably either trying to 1v9 it, or you're trying to just keep Artemis down so that your 80 carries are on parity, and then you can work from that.
And Yulwei, how does Cerberus win? Keep it very brief because we are imminently going into champ select and we do need to throw it all break.
Yeah, they don't change anything. They play like they did the last 2 weeks, and they just team fight better. They have a better early game and just win through lanes. It's very easy for Cerberus. They don't have to change much.
Absolutely. And with that, we will be going to a little bit of a break just to get ready for champ select and the like. In fact, it's just started, so it's going to be a very short break, but we'll see you in just a moment.
See the price it costs. The scars collected all their lives. When everything's lost, they pick up their hearts and avenge defeat. Before it all starts, they suffer through harm just to touch a dream. Oh, pick yourself up, 'cause legends never die.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry for a little bit of tech issue there. It is just the reality of how we have to stream. We do apologize. But the bans have come in. Nidalee, Lee and Volibear removed by Cerberus. Syndra, Aphelios, and Varus by %. The jungle picks are coming in, and what do we think so far?
I think this is quite interesting because it feels like the Grace pick is not so much for 𝗀𝗃, but it's to take away from 𝗧𝗃𝗏, who is starting instead of Eagle.
Who is in? That is interesting.
And I think this is actually a wild card that plays in %'s favor in a way, because otherwise Eagle is just matching, and I can hear myself echo.
Yeah, our producer does not have the stream muted. I'm sure they'll fix it. Don't worry. Cracking on. I think it's interesting that 𝗧𝗃𝗏's in playing Trundle. 𝗧𝗃𝗏 was the mechanics guy. It's Trundle.
It's true.
Yeah, that's why.
He's the very young new rookie coming in, so it's quite surprising. What I am looking at right now is 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗏, and there we go. 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 has not been picked for either of these ADCs. So 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 now hovered by Cerberus. Will they play their first 𝗃𝗃𝗃 game, indicating maybe a little bit more of an early game style? Would be quite a change for Cerberus.
Production, mute yourself, please. We can't seem to hear ourselves. Thank you. Bit of an echo. Let's continue on though. To keep the draft going. Oh no. Oh no. When they cut to the cameras, something breaks. What broke? Have they picked the wrong champion again?
Yeah, of course they have.
Someone
As
picked
always.
𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗏. And they're like, wait, we can't play 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗏. Mistakes were made.
The VCS, the region of picking the wrong champion and having to restart draft. But of course, we will be
It's
reviewing
comically often.
from what-
It's
It is.
super weird.
It is getting to the point where I think that the champions don't have pictures. Maybe they just don't have pictures and they're just
Maybe.
English words. And they're like, I don't know, I don't speak English. I'm trying to figure it out. The constant remakes is very much not fun. But it does let us catch up a bit because we had our production issues. What do we think of the draft so far? And Vinny, you're our % man. What do you think about 𝗧𝗃𝗏𝗃 coming in?
So I think 𝗧𝗃𝗏𝗃 being in is actually, it's definitely good for game one. Because I think otherwise you're looking at Eagle is basically going to play the exact same as 𝗀𝗃𝗃 in sort of more controlling, try maybe gank now and then, sort of counter gank. You're not really looking to hard carry from that position. Whereas with 𝗧𝗃𝗏𝗃, you can do that. You can try and force that a lot more. I think the Trundle pick is a bit sort of undermines the substitution. But overall, I think it was a good idea, but I would have liked to see him on something a bit more aggressive, maybe something like a Kindred, give him a bit of a later draft pick, rather than just locking in that Trundle straight away, even though I think Trundle's the best jungler.
Fair enough.
I definitely agree with. I definitely agree with the point that it's a little bit strange to see 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 on Trundle. I like the Trundle generally for % though. I feel like especially Eagle Trundle has been very, very good for them. So let's see if 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 can do the same. I'm a little bit hesitant on 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. I feel like Eagle has played better than I expected, and all the 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 games so far haven't been great for %. So maybe it's a one-off because they know they can't beat Cerberus and they just want to try something different. But it's a little strange to me. I would have expected Eagle to control the jungle here.
I think that is not unlikely. To kind of, I mean, if they're picking Trundle, I think you could have kept Eagle in, but maybe that was just a little bit of draft. You know, you bring a player in to potentially play Graves, then Graves gets first pick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that's
that's
fair.
Also,
more or less
actually
what
a
it
good
was.
read by Cerberus, seeing 𝗧𝗃𝗃𝗃 in and first picking Graves, which could have definitely muted the game plan out of %. But hopefully they've got a second string one. And, I mean, you got Trundle. Are you really complaining?
Yeah, Cerberus is one of our only teams that can play different styles of team compositions, even though everything kind of goes to team fighting anyway in the late game. They have played carry champs on 𝗂𝗏, they've played Karma on 𝗂𝗏, they've played Karma on LL. They can play through 𝗀𝗃𝗃. They are very, very versatile when it comes to champion select and draft in general. So I feel like this should benefit them. I still feel like the 𝗘𝗀𝗃 is a little bit risky. So maybe the 𝗘𝗀𝗃 was the missed pick or
Also-
something, because
It was picked into Ashe.
yeah, exactly. That
Really
too.
want to play 𝗘𝗀𝗃 into Ashe? That's rough.
And I think that's sort of what that might be what it was. They were like, oh, all right, I think we want 𝗘𝗀𝗃. Then someone was like, well, you don't want to play it into Ashe, and then they ran out of time and like, damn. Which I don't think should be a remake, but that's me.
I mean, it's a remake if they click the wrong champion, right? But not if they make a bad decision. But we are back in draft. If we throw back over to this one, we can actually react to the bans as they happen, because we are back in sync. Hopefully this one's
Needley's banned.
yeah, I mean, obviously the bans are going to be the same. I want to talk about %. They went, the 𝗲𝗏 ban comes in again, even though 𝗲𝗏, and I know this sounds so weird, everyone that doesn't watch the VCS is going to be very confused in hearing this. 𝗲𝗏 is not high priority or very successful in the VCS. He's been awful.
It's true. It's true. Actually, looking at the bans right now, because we missed kind of the dynamic of the bans, it's 3 jungler bans, 3 very strong solo queue junglers, and picking the 4th. So it's definitely a draft focused on denying 𝗀𝗃𝗃 his gems. Because what can you go to right now? There isn't really a good carry jungler left. You can go Kindred, but it's quite risky, especially into Grace. So I feel like he was forced onto the Trundle, and definitely not what % wanted to play here.
Yeah, but again, picking the Trundle, you can't complain about it. The 𝗘𝗀𝗃 was not a mispick, so that will be played into Ashe. I think that is potentially setting yourself up for destruction, and Zoe Orianna will be the mid lane matchup. I'm expecting some support bans from both sides, honestly, but what would you like to see these teams round out with? Yulwei, how do you want Cerberus to close their comp out?
I think this is going to be dive bot lane and bring Artemis ahead. So I want to see a very good diving support, and maybe top laner can contribute as well. With I feel like they want to go Renekton every time they can, but maybe something like a Maokai or something that can teleport down bot lane could work for them as well.
Yep, very true. And have a look at what just got locked in. It's Leicester's best champion. That is very, very good 4%. But will 𝗃𝗃𝗃 tear apart Cerberus? What do you think so far?
If you're Cerberus, you actually really sort of... Ooh!
Yes.
Ooh, baby.
Ooh,
Okay.
This is something you've been talking about. I know Alistair is a favorite of yours. Tell us all about the big boy cow.
So Alistair recently got a buff to his Q, so it's on a much shorter cooldown in the late game, and he can get multiple rounds off in a team fight. They're
Not
definitely
life though, right? That's not 10-13. I think that's 10-14.
Damn, it's not. It's 10-14. Okay, never mind that then. However, it does sort of it does actually say that Cerberus is looking to concede the lane a bit. And I think they've actually, in a way, really decided we are sacking bot lane, because you look at the setup from %. They have heaps of slows. 𝗀𝗃𝗃 can put down a pillar, which guarantees a bard stun, because you just have terrain immediately behind the target. And then, so you have the ability for you also have the great disengage and dive potential from that Alistair, but you have a very good chance of being bullied around if 𝗀𝗃𝗃 makes his presence known.
Absolutely.
Well, that
and
all is true.
Yulwei, there's just been a Fiora picked up. What do you think? It is a Mordekaiser counter, so definitely it has a reason to be picked. But gotta say, France has not been repping well so far this split. We've had a couple of Fioras. They're definitely
Look at the rest of the team composition. It's such an insane late game team fight composition. Then they last pick Fiora just to counter LL in lane. What? % is one of the best late game team fighting teams, and they just completely hamstring themselves. Why Fiora last pick? That is so weird. Why he's not even a good laner? Why would you try to counterpick the Mordekaiser? Doesn't make any sense to me. That is one of the weirdest last picks I've ever seen.
I have a theory. It might be so that they can have pretty constant lane pressure top from like level 5, like 4, maybe 5. Fiora always has prio over Mord. He just can't walk up, or he just takes way too much damage. maybe they want to play around the top side and always have top lane prio to help 𝗬𝗏𝗧, because he's been pushed off his champions. Like, he was denied 4 junglers. But before
How do you win the game
reply
then?
to that, but before we reply to that, we'll get into that. Don't you worry. We need Vinny's last word and who's going to win.
Okay, so my take on the Fiora pick is, with this, you have 2 pushing side lanes, which means, and the mid lane's going to be kind of a flat, both clear their ways really quickly. So you're going to have a very easy access into that counter jungling for 𝗬𝗏𝗧, which is his style, even though he's not on a Graves. And I think you're essentially trying to look for making the game a 4v5, and that's how you win. Because if Graves is nothing, you can win the sort of 4v5 team fights, because they're basically 4v4s, and then you have the YT in the side lane, split pushing, hopefully, and then we see what happens.
Who's going to win?
Who's going to win? You got to pick. You got to pick.
I think
you got to pick.
I think I'm going to stick to what we said at the start and say Cerberus is a better percent. So and they have a much easier to execute comp. So we're going to go with Cerberus.
And you need to get out of here, because we are going to crack on with the action. It's just me and Yulwei now, bringing you that sweet, sweet VCS action in what is a very hype matchup. Now, I want to seize on something Vinny did say, because he said, I think they're going to sack bot lane. But you have a 𝗬𝗏𝗧. Why on earth would you sack bot lane with 𝗬𝗏𝗧? That doesn't make sense. I think he's right, for the record. I think the alley pick, look what's happening. They can't do much. 𝗬𝗏𝗧 just walks away. This is a bad bot lane.
It kind of it's kind of hard to generalize there to say they sack bot lane. They do in the early game, but I feel like level 6 is where it all turns, and they have so much dive power. 𝗪𝗓 is one of the best pairings with 𝗪𝗓𝗧 for dives, because you have so many tools to deny the turret damage, or to survive the dive with the 𝗪𝗓. You can just use his ultimate, then you can use the 𝗪𝗓 ult, of course, pull him out, completely untargetable afterwards. They can even re-engage, double knockout from the 𝗪𝗓. It's insane amounts of CC. So I feel like once they weather the storm of the early game and get to level 6, we will see some bot lane dive action.
I definitely think that's likely. We have a lot of dive potential for sure. But I think it's going to be very important that those dives go right and that they happen. Because otherwise, Artemis, I mean, he's against an Ashe. 𝗪𝗓𝗧 will always deal sort of similar damage to an Ashe, I guess. But Ashe just offers so much more utility that you definitely rather have the Ashe in the mid and late game. We'll have to see how it goes, as we do have our junglers meeting for the first time. 𝗬𝗏𝗧 comes in, chomp and smite. That's my KFC.
Very nicely done from 𝗬𝗏𝗧. Just one auto attack, one smite, and stole the big raptor. So the counter jungling Trundle into Graves, it's not something we expect, but now he doesn't have smite, so I don't think you can really go for this. And the bot lane fight.
And there is a bot lane fight there as they are engaging. Lisa's taken a lot of damage. Artemis gets pillared. He's in a lot of trouble. Already flashed. Cerberus is calling the teleport. Now 𝗬𝗏𝗧 is on the run. Yado's arrived. He has a smite for the slow. And 𝗬𝗏𝗧, you stole his KFC, but he took your life. As it continues, it does not stop. They're moving forward. That's a real exhaust being used, Spellbook, but still. There we go.
It all turns around for 𝗬𝗏𝗧. After his successful invade, he overextends and shows too early in the river without smite. There was no reason for him to start 𝗪𝗏𝗧 there. He knows he can't win the smite fight. And it's very, very tragic for the jungle start, because everything they set up for has now gone to naught. And 𝗬𝗏𝗧 even used his flash. He's one level behind. He's in a very bad spot now.
Absolutely. I have fallen behind these streams, so I'm just trying to catch up. Hopefully, are we in the replay now? Have I gone too far? Talk us through this replay. Once it comes. Okay, yes, so I'm now ahead. We'll have to resync up a timestamp, but break down the replay.
𝗬𝗏𝗧 flashed in place. He almost, I think he didn't move at all from the flash. That was a horrible mistake. He tried to flash on top of Artemis to secure the kill.
Oh, and we go back to live, and 𝗬𝗏𝗧's woes only get worse. I'm ahead. I'm spoiling. I'm sorry. I might be. We might just need to resync a little bit with Yulwei. I do apologize. This is a reality of bootleg casting. If you want us to not have to do it, petition your local Garena to make us official. What is your timestamp, both production and Yulwei? Just quickly. Okay, so let us resync at 05:20. Oh, we're going into a red.
After the read. The screen is not. It's not loading for me. I need to reset everything, sadly.
Okay. Well, I'll do a bit of a solo cast for now as we are on the replay. And it was just 𝗬𝗏𝗏 going over aggressive into a Graves. You don't win that fight as 𝗏𝗏𝗏 early. Not in the jungle, maybe in a minion wave, but definitely did not win it there. Very, very unfortunate. I believe I was about 2 seconds ahead of production, so I'll just pause for a moment. Okay, me and production are perfectly back in sync. Here we go. We'll just have to get Yulwei back in when he can fix up his internet. Again, we do apologize. Google Chrome is not particularly cooperative. We wish we had a better system, but we don't. So, moving back into it, it's still the bot lane. Cerberus has managed to get some priority down here, and my early fears have been assuaged by the early action as they are in a solid gold lead. The dragon has been started. 𝗬𝗏𝗏, you have no business being near this, as both the bot lane and the mid lane for Cerberus pushed their waves out at the perfect time, and good God, 𝗁𝗏 is out here throwing boulders as the Infernal Drake will be picked up by Cerberus. Artemis returns to the bot lane just as the lanes reset. And that, my friends, is a little bit of the micro-macro plays, by which I mean just a little macro play, but we do still see the strength of Cerberus. Ron OP, he's gone in, he's looking for that milk. Exhaust has come down onto Big Coro, but it doesn't matter how tired Artemis is, he's going to kill his enemy ADC. And Cerberus is off to a cracker of a start.
Once again see how strong Cerberus can be in the early game. They have definitely improved. Oh no, there's another fight in mid lane.
There's a bit interesting, very low on both sides. 𝗀𝗏𝗏, he's got to be careful that he doesn't listen to my words as he goes down. It's 𝗁𝗏. She has the empowered autos. She has the crazy damage. And it's just getting worse and worse.
It's a 4-0 lead now for Cerberus. You say she has the empowered autos. Of course, Ori has the empowered autos as well. But if she's against 𝗁𝗏, it's not quite the same power. And we see once again, 𝗁𝗏 almost always wins in these kinds of trades. Orianna basically has to burst her down with her ultimate there. 𝗁𝗏 just has a little bit more.
Oh, Ron OP! The Chad!
He just flashed over that wall. Oh my God.
Absolutely. Now, I think you are still a little bit behind your waist. You've gone 2x speed for a sec. Is 𝗬𝗏𝗏. This was the start of the fight. 𝗬𝗏𝗏 did get a good trade onto 𝗀𝗏𝗏 and ignited him. And a good flash out of 𝗬𝗏𝗏 is what turned that one around. Had the shockwave landed, 𝗀𝗏𝗏 probably wins this, but we go back to live, and here in the VCS, the action never stops. And 𝗬𝗏𝗏 strikes again as he takes down the top laner. They didn't even have to dive. He came to them. And it's platings for 𝗪𝑆TA. You've got
what a useful
to
Fiora, by the way. Such a great pick. Such a good last pick. This situation.
It is smashing the top lane matchup. You got to.
I mean, yeah.
That's what.
To be fair to him. To be fair to him, it wasn't really any part, but there's 𝗬𝗏𝗏 once again a little bit of a precarious situation.
Sleep has gone on to 𝗬𝗏𝗏. Is it going to be enough to get away? 𝗬𝗏𝗏 is here, uses the smoke screen for a slow, and it's an arrow from the top lane that will seal 𝗬𝗏𝗏's fate, and 𝗬𝗏 is on the board.
Finally killed back to 𝗬𝗏, but it doesn't really change too much in the grand scheme of things. Of course, it's nice to have one kill on 𝗀𝗏𝗏. But in the meantime, Artemis mined 3 turret plates, so he got 480 gold out of that one, which is more than a kill. So in the end, still a negative gold trade for the side of 𝗬𝗏. They need to find some things, and to be honest, this is one of the strengths for 𝗬𝗏, to find individual kills, individual picks. So if they can do this again and again, maybe they have a way back into this game, as Cerberus wants to contest this with 𝗬𝗏𝗏.
Yep,
he gets away.
Back off it. Now, I think we've actually fallen behind production again. Let's do a proper resync, lads. We have to fix this up. We, again, apologize. Let's jump to as close to live as we can. Production, if you can press that button. And let's get a good resync going. Can you call your timestamp when you press the button? Oh.
Same
Yep,
same.
Yardo's getting dove on too. I'm at 10, 13, 14, 15.
You're 1 second out of me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we are all back in sync, hopefully. Sorry again, guys. This is sort of just a reality of it. We are doing our best, we promise, to bring you as close to live as possible. But here we are with a big lead for Cerberus. And what does this one mean, Yulwei? Break it down. Tell us what this means for the rest of the game.
So coming into today, in terms of the matchup, I looked at how Percent wants to play early game, and as we touched on multiple times in the pre-game, the early game hasn't been the greatest. On average, more than 1k gold down at 15. This will happen once again, very likely, in this game. But one of the main points was jungle control, and they failed miserably at this in this game. So sadly, it's not looking very good for Percent. How can they come back from here? They still have a very strong late game core in terms of team fighting with Glory and 𝗘𝗀𝗃𝗧 providing a lot of DPS and control as well. The problem is they don't really have a great front line in this game with the Fiora in top lane instead of some generic tank or off tank like Renekton, like Maokai, you know all the champs. So they need to find a way to stabilize their core so they can actually fight 4v4 and give Fiora time to scale into the late game side lane menace she can be. It's not super likely right now though, because 3k gold deficit. It's kind of easy for Cerberus to just brute force fights right now around objectives. They've started the Dragon Snowball as well, so definitely looks like a good game for Cerberus and looks like a game they will be able to win in the end.
Yeah, so far that seems very, very likely as LL moves down to the bot lane, as they just want to isolate him, it seems, from the Fiora matchup. 𝗬𝗏 has pulled the dragon. This is a little bit risky, as their bot lane has not arrived yet. 𝗏𝗏 is in the river, of course. And there it is, secured. Cerberus is on the Dragon Snowball as we head to the Mountain Rift.
So what I like about this for Cerberus is that they actually didn't contest, because that is something OPG did against Cerberus last week. Percent, of course, I meant. Percent didn't contest. So OPG constantly contested Cerberus, even from 5k gold down, and just the game just snowballed harder and harder in Cerberus's favor. So I like that Percent acknowledged the fact they can't fight right now. It's really, really dangerous to run into 3-0 Graves at this point. So just give up the dragon, maybe even the next dragon, and try to fight around Soul, because that is when the items will be a little bit closer, as we have another dive in the bot lane.
Here we go. You can stop Ron OP once with the arrow, but he gets thrown forward, has to now find a way out, and they'll get to the safe arms of LL.
Yep, good security with all behind them. Could have actually been a little bit dicey if LL wasn't there. But of course, Cerberus knows where all the players are positioned, so just a nice try. Double ultimate traded on both. Oh, actually no ultimate use for Ron OP, of course, but one ultimate traded. At least it buys some time for YT in the top lane to get a lot of platings. Of course, Fiora with her buff, I think it was end of 2019 or mid 2019, where she can now use her Q on turrets, is very fast at pushing down those platings early on.
Absolutely. I did see, of course, I want to shout out my boy Ron OP. That was a very nice little play to dodge the Bard ult on Alistair. Just headbutted a minion, got the hell out of the Tempered Fate. Very well done. You love to see it, as Yardo's just throwing spells out for a bit of fun, apparently. Now, Yulwei, we have an Orianna build, and I'm noticing that she's not crying. There's no tear in the inventory. How upset are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Honestly, it's kind of okay in this game, I feel like. So the main thing I'm angry with for VCS Oriannas is Ludens, because Ludens is really just the worst version of the tier. But this one is a little bit different. It's not, Glory, not the greatest ultimate, but it doesn't really matter. So this one is a little bit different. It's not the high damage Orianna for sure. It's only 80 AP from this item, of course. But it gives her way more control in team fights, and you kind of need to control some of the stronger divers on Cerberus' side. It's very good into 𝗘𝗀𝗃𝗏𝗏, another slow. It's very good into Alistair, so I feel like it's okay here. So I'm not too upset with her.
Look at the pressure. 𝗬𝗏 was in range. It's a 3-0 Graves. They know there's nothing they can do. Tower goes down. Cerberus' lead only grows. I'm going to be honest.
And
it's
we are watching
very
the best team in the VCS right now in terms of
We are.
record, at least,
We are.
and it's looking
And-
dominant.
Kabang, absolutely. The gates of the underworld are looking very well guarded by this dog right now. I think %. It's early. It's very early. There's a lot of room for VCS to happen, but it's
But a
already
5-0
looking
start
very
is 5-0 start would
5-1.
be a very, very good thing. No, 5-0 in terms of series, if they can win
Oh,
the
of course,
series,
yeah.
because they are 4-0 so far. They haven't lost a single game yet.
It's
And
insane.
even Team Secret with Coded has now lost a game. So Cerberus
Ooh,
looking very, very strong.
a little bit of an attempt there by us. That was just wishful thinking.
I want to shout out Artemis again, because as we said before, this is his first 𝗘𝗧𝗏 game. And of course, we know he can play 𝗘𝗧𝗏, but he hasn't done it this season so far. They've relied on him on hyper carries. He's looking great on the 𝗘𝗧𝗏 as well. 20 CS ahead and utilizing his early lead with 1 kill and 1 assist, of course, from the early team fights.
And is ahead in terms of CS in a difficult matchup. 𝗀𝗏𝗵 on this 𝗪𝗏 so far has looked very clean, in my opinion. I think he's actually been doing very good jobs, just being just pressure. Like he went for that very Chad flash over the wall, straight into an engage that got them a kill. But he's also just been stepping up and saying, hey, if you want to defend your tower, you've got to come into my barn. And no one wants to go into a barn with 𝗪𝗏. It's very scary.
Absolutely. So the 𝗪𝗏, I want to see more of the 𝗪𝗏 next patch, of course, when he gets buffed, because that is when 𝗪𝗏 will probably become a little bit more normal in all the leagues. We've seen one 𝗪𝗏 in LEC, played by 𝗘𝗀𝗽, the best air support over there for Mad Lions, and he looked incredible too. So I'm always interested to see 𝗪𝗏, because he's such an interesting champ to watch in team fights, especially where he uses his zone power if he goes for engages or actually tries to zone off the enemies. Always get flashbacks to Origin playing the it's G2 actually, the 𝗪𝗏 from Mythi, the famous one where he just completely zones off the Orianna from the fight and Orianna doesn't get to do anything, just continuously headbutts her away. So a very versatile champ that can either engage or disengage. I always like to see champs with different modes. As we quietly have the third dragon started.
Yes, that not just started, it's already dead. Hope you haven't fallen out of sync again. 𝗬𝗃 will trade it for a top lane tower. I think % is very lucky we didn't coin flip to an Ocean Rift, because that is 3 Drakes at 18 minutes. This is looking really dicey, and so is Lisa's life as he gets ripped apart, and 𝗀𝗏𝗵 claims the kill. So I assume you are out of sync.
Catch up. Yeah. It's a little bit of a struggle right now for my internet. I'm not sure why, but we should be able to get through this game at least, and then maybe I can find something to reset that one. But Cerberus is
after this game, we will work
right now. There isn't really much % can do, which we touched on earlier. Of course, the team composition isn't the greatest. Also,
good pick here though, as 𝗏𝗏𝗏 will get a kill on Yado. It was an arrow into a shockwave into the easiest kill that Trundle will ever get. Would have maybe given the kill over to your mid lane or your bot, but whatever. As long as the kill's secured, right?
Of course, you need kills. You need kills right now. Of course, the kill on the Trundle is not really helpful for later, but you have to take into consideration the tempo you generate, the tempo you get away from the enemy team. They can't really push in too much anymore, and you just buy a little bit more time. The big thing now on the clock is just the Mountain Drake, the Soul. This Soul will be hard to deal with. They have a relatively low damage composition in terms of team fighting, with the Orianna being low damage here, and Ashe also building towards a build that doesn't really spike until very late. So I feel like the Mountain Soul will definitely seal the deal in favor of Cerberus.
Yep, it will be very, very difficult to chunk through the defenses of Cerberus. Even one armor item, just like a GA on 𝗘𝗧𝗏, takes her up to very, very tanky levels, and that's not even talking about the 𝗪𝗏. As 𝗬𝗃, I mean, there's still Fiora split push potential, right? She is dominating the top lane matchup. Mordekaiser can't stop her. She will just kill him. unless he has flash available to get away. Obviously, you don't have flash very often.
The question is how
So
much
there's
he can
potential,
accomplish in
but
the side lane, though, because the
I
big
just
problem.
think Cerberus is going to be the team that can answer them.
Yeah,
if any team
indeed.
in the league can answer a split push, it's Cerberus.
Yeah, and there's one big problem right now with a lot of split pushers is that they can't really finish the job. A lot of them are good in side lanes, a lot of them dominate the matchup, but they run into a brick wall when it comes to pushing down the inhibitor. And Fiora will constantly win the fights, as RonOP is a little bit caught out here.
Ooh, he's LL takes a lot of damage, but he's okay. And we are just going to keep on trucking. RonOP is caught out. I hope I haven't fallen behind.
No.
But
it's on my side.
He'll crawl away. No worries. Production, make sure I'm not out of sync. And if I am, let me know. We're having a rough one so far.
Yeah,
Lisa walking up perhaps a little bit too far and using the magical journey makes that Q go even further. Easy peasy kill for Yado.
And will this transition into Baron? They have good vision around the area. They are all heading towards Baron. Their Baron damage isn't the greatest with a mage that almost doesn't contribute.
Desperately trying to get YT and does 1-for-1, but 2-for-1. I tell a lie, but Baron to Cerberus.
Look at the timer. Look at the timer. This might actually backfire for Cerberus. This is now Drake spawning in 30 seconds, and the timer, especially for LL, is longer than that. So if percent just resets and runs straight at Dragon, they could stop the Dragon Snowball. But we see the reset is actually behind the Cerberus. The Cerberus is making the call to just instantly run at that objective as well. This could be the deciding fight of the game. Brewing right now at Dragon Pit.
Absolutely, it could be. As 𝗬𝗪 going forward, unleashing a couple of shotgun bolts. RonOP goes in, gets the double knockup, but they're trying to fight back. But look at all of the damage. The Tempered Fate hits a whole lot of nothing. Magical Journey is used. Dragon has been pulled, but 𝗃𝗏 will go down if he gets in the range of this Zoe. This is very difficult here for percent.
That's right.
YT is not participating in this fight whatsoever. Artemis is getting the spears in the Drake rolling. LL has gotten here. Nowhere near 𝗃𝗏 for that ult. Here we go. The Dragon reset. The fight could begin. And there it is. Glory gets the good shockwave. They'll clean up the cow. 𝗬𝗪 goes down. The Drake goes to percent. And in the Death Realm, it is LL taking on YT. And of course, YT will win that one.
Are we witnessing percent coming back against Cerberus? One of the best comeback teams on both sides, but this time around, percent, I feel like Cerberus made the wrong call here. They should have just conceded the Dragon. Their positioning wasn't great, and Artemis once again got hit by a 𝗖𝗀𝗪's arrow. So 2 fights in a row, 𝗖𝗀𝗪 hitting the enemy ADC, very big contribution to the fights. And the gold is close now. They have stopped the Dragon Snowball too. And there is a world where percent can close this game and get the first ever game victory against Cerberus.
Yep, it is going to be very interesting. And now that potentially the 4v4 is going well, we'll come to the replay first. We start halfway through this fight because it was so long.
It was such a long fight.
Breakdown.
What happens to 𝗬𝗪? Yeah, 𝗬𝗪 zoned off from his team. He tries to go in, but now in a very, very weird position. And of course, they all pile on top of him. He's tries to smite for health, so he can't really go for the secure. Very good execution from percent and very good shockwave positioning from Glory, just waiting for the enemy jungler to get close enough. And they just focus on the jungler while also keeping Artemis from auto-attacking by using 𝗖𝗪𝗪's ultimate. So just a well-fought fight from percent. They are still behind in gold, though, but it's only 1k now.
Yeah, so it's a pretty insignificant gold lead here at 25 minutes. Of course, a lot of it is due to the Fiora and Orianna's massive CS leads. Have a look at that. Glory is 50 CS up as is 𝗬𝗃. We expect it in the Fiora versus 𝗬𝗃𝗍𝗃 matchup. But in that mid lane, that is just Glory truly being glorious. We'll have to see if they can keep it going.
A little bit of an attribute to 𝗬𝗏's playstyle. He likes to play a little bit more facilitating. He likes to give up a few of his wave CS for his jungler. 𝗬𝗏 most of the time collects those. So I feel like it's definitely good for Glory, but also we can't really flame 𝗬𝗏 too much for this goal for this CS deficit, because he likes to play like this all the time. Might not be the best option in this game though, so we have to see if Zoe can still contribute enough damage. 𝗬𝗏 plays a very CC heavy, very pick heavy Zoe. She's not really there for the teamfight damage. They rely on Grace and Artemis's 𝗘𝗀𝗃 here to bring the main DPS, and so far Artemis has been called out by 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's ultimate. So I feel like it's more on him than on 𝗬𝗏, honestly, in this game so far.
Absolutely. I think we need to start seeing RONOP playing a little bit of disengage Alistar. Just stand in front of Artemis, tank the arrow for him every time. But there he goes. He does not listen. He goes flying in, and halfway through the tunnel, down goes Lisa and the tower.
Oh, like all the aggressive, assertive plays from our top teams. Every single team is so good at these very kind of plays where they go for picks, very quick execution into immediate tower. Of course, it gets traded by 𝗬𝗃 in the top lane, and now 𝗬𝗃𝗍𝗃 is sent back to defend against her. So in the end, it's only 1-for-1 trade in towers, and percent lose one member, but it's only the support.
Oh,
so.
no. Glory. Lucky he took cleanse. He was in a fair bit of trouble. There, as he misses another shockwave. Truly, it is a fiesta. We've got all the sombreros we need coming out of that Orianna. Now, of course, a top lane for a mid lane inner, it's a 1-for-1, but mid lane matters a lot more. And now 𝗬𝗃 needs to find a way out, because in comes the cow. Can he riposte? He uses the challenge. There's the riposte already used. Now they just need to chase him down, but the lunge is good enough.
They get his ultimate, so now he can't really do anything in side lanes against LL. I don't think without ultimate he can dive. But look at all the objective timers. Both objectives are coming up very shortly, so now is the time for Cerberus to maybe make a play on one side of the map and see if percent responds or tries to trade. Of course, basically both trades are advantageous for Cerberus, so percent needs to prevent either objective from falling. If Cerberus wants to, they could trade Baron for Dragon, because Dragon for percent doesn't really do much. I would like to see that, but also going for Dragon Soul, of course, is a valid choice. They could lose Baron if they do that, and that's, of course, not what we want to do. So it seems like Cerberus right now is top side focused, which makes a lot of sense to me, and maybe they can clean up their execution on the Baron secure, because the first one was a little bit questionable.
Absolutely. They need to be careful, as there is a Bard ult, and Artemis once again hit by the arrow. Draktar charges forward, gets that pillar up. 𝗘𝗀𝗃 is unable to do anything in this fight. There's too many slows. In the Death Realm, I'm not sure who's actually in there. It's Draktar and LL, as 𝗬𝗃 has joined the fight. He has the ultimate back. Can he get that big heal down? And it's all turning around. It started out percent favored, but Cerberus has roared back, and they've got all the kills. They've got 4. They're looking for the final one onto Big Coro, but he just might be the one that lives to tell the tale.
Happened in this fight? I have no idea. All the HP bars went so low at the start. How did they win this so decisively? That was insane.
Graves hit all 5.
Wow, I want to see this again, maybe in 0.5 speed. This is already a candidate for the next video, I feel like. This fight alone was such an insane turn for Cerberus there. And now they will get both of the objectives. Look at Graves. Graves ran to the dragon.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought Graves was on percent. Ignore my no. It is yes.
I mean, most of the time, you would expect the enemy team to make this trade, but good call for Cerberus once again on the objectives. But let's take a look at this fight. What happened here? So the Assault is already gone. The Bartos is used on Baron instead of the team, and everyone tries to disengage for Cerberus. 𝗬𝗃 is coming in from the flank and goes on LL, which doesn't really do much. 𝗬𝗃 gets
Zhonya's, the grand challenge can't be propped because of the Zhonyas. And it all turns around. That heal field could have won them the fight.
And it's not actually
RONOP.
It's not actually RONOP landing a big knockout or anything. It's just percent a little bit too far forward, a little bit too overextended. Group up and get hit by all the AoE damage from 𝗬𝗏, from Artemis, from even LL after his Zhonyas. So Just a little bit of an overextension for Percent. It was super close, but now the game isn't close anymore.
No, unfortunately, it's not. YT has gone into the death realm with LL. You do not win this at this stage of the game, my friend. I would have stayed out of the death realm to potentially have your AD carry help, but he survives long enough. That big old shield from the W is plenty.
And if you can lock down the Fiora for long enough for the enemy, for the other members to arrive, that's good enough. You don't need to win 1v1 if you can just call someone else in. Fiora is by far the strongest champ on the other side. Even though she's 1 and 4, her stats don't really show it. But look at the items. There is some very dangerous items. So now they got rid of the most important enemy champ. Orianna alone can't really threaten an inhibitor on the top side. This should just be 2 inhibitors cracked for Cerberus that play it correctly.
Absolutely, it should be. They've got the Mountain Dragons to give them the shield. Lisa has been chunked. Big Coro, he threw the arrow out. He was hopeful, but it's not going to do much. It misses, and Cerberus are charging in. You say it might be 2 inhibs cracked. I think another structure is getting threatened. And glory, hallelujah. You've got to hit an ult, my friend. They have been missing consistently. And now they are sieging on towards the Nexus. 3v5. Cerberus, they are a very safe team. They might not want to end this here. I tell a lie as LL puts Glory in the death realm. Goes gold. This is a really good smoke screen. Putting it on that dot. They're going forward. 1 Nexus tower will fall. And now they want another one. LL has TP to rejoin. But the Nexus is exposed. And Cerberus will take down Cerberus Jr. in game 1.
It was close for a while. Percent with very good effort to come back into the game, but in the end, the original is better than the copy. So we see Cerberus win their 9th game in a row in this summer season. They haven't lost a single one yet, and it's not looking likely to happen today.
No, it doesn't look likely. That said, there were some pretty massive underperformances out of Percent there. Glory, that was a bad Orianna game. I'm sorry. Lisa, shocking Bard. Maybe we see those 2 lift in game 2. What do you think, Vinny? What's your take on the game?
So I think Lisa actually played it quite well. He just wasn't in a position where he could do that much. Meanwhile, we have Glory missed a lot of shockwaves. There's no excuse for that really. But a lot of it comes down to basically the early game and the draft, right? So I did say I don't want to see Glory on a thing like Orianna where he's stuck in the mid lane where he can't do anything. Or they put him on the Orianna, he's stuck in the mid lane, he doesn't do anything. And that bot lane absolutely could have gone another way if A, Glory could match the roam from 𝗬𝗄, or B, and probably more importantly, 𝗬𝗄𝗏 doesn't just flash on the spot.
Oh no, that was so bad.
So
I think Eagle coming back in would help.
So that's
probably
a very small thing. That's so tiny, but that meant everything the bot lane from Percent was doing was undone. It meant the early jungle advantage was undone, and from there, Cerberus played it very cleanly. I mean, Percent almost got back into it with a few very good fights and a few very good like picks and rotations and whatnot. But for the most part, it was just kind of lost at that. It was kind of all signs were wrong at that
pretty
fight.
doomed.
And so I think Percent can walk away from it going, yeah, look, we completely cocked that up. But we almost had it.
Yeah,
so
there was shines of life, for sure. But I hate to cut you off. We do need to pick an MVP before we go to a little bit of a break to rehydrate and the like. I think it's pretty obvious, in my opinion. I think 𝗬𝗏. Dude was everywhere, dealing the damage.
I would go with 𝗬𝗏 as well, yeah.
Yeah,
he's been ridiculous this split, and I think he carried it into this game. We'll lock in 𝗬𝗏 on the Graves. He was amazing. He dealt way more damage than he has any right to. And we will see you guys in just over 5 minutes for the second game of Cerberus to take on Percent. Can Percent bounce back, or will the gates of the underworld remain closed? Let us know in chat or in the Discord, which you should totally join. The link is below the stream, and I'm sure a mod can post it in chat. We'll see you guys very, very soon here on VCS English. Welcome back, everyone. It's game 2 of Cerberus taking on 𝗚𝗏. We here at VCS English did all pick Cerberus to win. I know a few people in our community disagreed. But what do you think, boys? Will 𝗚𝗏 come back? Or is it going to be the 2-0? I know what you're going what at, and we're not going to address it. Move past. Let's talk about game 2. Vinny, we'll start off with you. As of course, you are our dedicated analyst. What does 𝗚𝗏 need to change to give themselves the best percentage chance in game 2?
So with 𝗚𝗏, you can always sub an Eagle. I don't necessarily think that's you have to. I think it's probably the safe option, but with 𝗬𝗏𝗏, I feel like the idea they had going into it wasn't incorrect. They just completely screwed the early game. But I do, of course, want to see priority for Glory. You have so many jungle bans, and like you're on blue side now, so you are. If they're banning triple jungle again, Glory's open to get Syndra. Glory's open to get Zoe again. Glory should be able to get one of his best picks, and Glory shouldn't be missing shockwaves. I don't like him on Orianna. Get him on a champion that can move.
I'm not a huge fan of saving the counter pick for YT as well.
Oh, please never do that.
On red side. On red side. I mean, obviously they're not on red side this time, but yeah, exactly. They're on blue side this time. So I don't think in this matchup, top lane needs to be saved for the R5 counter pick.
Really?
But Yulwei, what's your take? How does Cerberus slam the door on this one? Do they just do more of the same, or is there a better way to run it?
Well, I feel like they just need to do the same. A little bit cleaner on the Barons. Both Barons were a little bit weird, especially the first one. I actually think 𝗬𝗏 had a little bit of an off game. One of the very few games where we didn't give him a single point. So I feel like 𝗬𝗏 could step up a little bit. But if Cerberus is able to win even without 𝗬𝗏 hard carrying, that's an even better sign for the team. So you can't really fault them for much here. Definitely some macro decisions they need to improve on. Definitely some Baron vision things, maybe. But overall, a good game once again. And I think they'll go 10-0.
Ooh, big calls. But here we go, cracking straight into draft. 𝗏𝗏 will be the first ban. 𝗚𝗏 do not want a repeat of that performance out of 𝗬𝗏. And hell, I can't blame them. I have to see which jungler is in. I fully admit I don't recognize Eagle or Draktar, so I can't tell.
I know how Eagle looks, but he's too far away now on the screen.
Can't really see them, but I didn't see anything that said Draktar out, so I think they're going with him again. And this is weird. I don't 100% like this, because that is Glory's best champion. Just pick it away, or force Cerberus to ban it. And I don't think Cerberus is going to take Zoe in the first rotation, so you can definitely get it in like blue 2, blue 3. Whereas, yeah, you don't unless they ban it there, which opens up 𝗏𝗏𝗏's picks, and they ban the Graves.
These bans worry me a lot for 𝗏𝗏. This is really dangerous if they have to ban these champs, because 𝗏𝗏𝗏, we talked about 𝗏𝗏𝗏 not being picked between the teams on either side. Now 𝗬𝗏𝗏 showed us a 𝗏𝗏𝗏 game, and it seems like 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is not willing to first pick 𝗏𝗏𝗏, so they have to ban it on blue side. A typical red side ban, that's already not great. Then Graves as well. They are not willing to first pick Graves, so
Eagles
those bans, Eagles in, so that makes sense for the Graves, but still kind of worrying for the 𝗏𝗏𝗏. Limits their champion pool and the ability to play all the meta compositions.
I wouldn't have minded the Graves ban if it was like a direct response to a Trundle early pick, because in that case it's like, yeah, we don't want this or this counter specifically.
Yeah, it's open.
But Trundle is open.
Don't pick it. But Varus has been secured. Let's focus on that for a moment. As we did say before the series, Varus, despite being broken worldwide, has been very bad in the VCS. We've seen 3 games, 2 of which they didn't build lethality and had no impact, and the third where he was covered in meat and left out to attract bears. He was just bait all game.
Yeah,
in the Garm game.
He was played
Yeah,
twice on hit by our worst AD carry, and then he was played. His third game was lethality, but it was played by a mid laner
Laner,
substituted as a
Yeah,
lead carry
it was,
for some
but,
reason.
yeah, it was a mid laner in the bot lane, to be clear. It was
It was
a very
very weird.
ugly. It was an ugly game, and here we go. Eagle fires back. The Trundle Thresh first rotation is very strong out of Cerberus, and they look like they're going to answer it back. The Olaf Karma. What do we think
Run at
so
them.
far of the percent? What do we think of the percent lineup so far? Vinny, how would you like to see them close it out?
So, with the draft as it is right now, I would prefer that to be a support Karma and have a full-on, very heavily poking bot lane with a lethality virus and a Karma. If you were going to go, you know, turbo Olaf, I would have preferred Drakthar because that feels more like his wheelhouse rather than Eagle. But
It's true.
so I'm not 100% sure. I think Cerberus did just waste a ban there because I am never scared of Glory's
That's true.
Oriana.
That does mean they're
But-
rating it as a support Karma. Which
I
That
actually
does
think this
mean
could
that.
be could very well be a top lane Karma in my opinion. YT is on blue side, so you can be counterpicked by LL. And instead, you just flex the Karma in top lane, which you can't really be countered. And then you have Karma Olaf top side, very strong to invade the top side jungle. Would actually really like to see Karma top lane in this game. I think it would
think
give
the-
Percent a nice way to play around top side.
Just a very brief comment about the Oriana ban. Yeah, Glory had a very bad game, but Oriana can make Aphelios' life very hard. I think that's the
that
is
ban.
true.
A lot of zone control. It does
That
make
is
the
true.
Moon Boy be praying for an eclipse, but Cerberus now going to pick up the R4. Yulwei, how would you like to see them round this one out? We need
This is
obviously a
so
top laner and a
obvious.
mid lane.
Cerberus always goes for this crocodile. Here it's LL's prime year champion. I would say Yado can go a lot of different ways. I feel like he's probably going to go a little bit of a roaming style mid laner here. TF is banned, sadly. TF would be the #1 Yado pick in this position. But something that fits the same kind of style would work. Galio comes to mind. Maybe even AP Nunu if we're lucky today. But yeah, those are the champs I expect from Yado.
AP Nunu would be an absolute treat. That would be
It was
very,
banned
very fun.
yesterday against Faker.
He was
Faker has
dominating
been
on solo.
spamming it in solo queue.
I know.
Yeah, he's been
Which
playing
is absurd.
as. We need to see where Percent leaves out their comp here. They do get the Wukong for YT. That is a good thing for them. And Lisa goes back to Leona.
But
That's a
why?
mid lane cover.
Why Leona
Yeah.
into Trundle and Thresh? What? Why would you do that? Oh,
Yeah, that is
no.
a very
Ooh.
it's a very interesting pick. If you
I think the
wanted
first
to
three
go with a
letters are the
sort
most
of
interesting.
yeah, if you wanted to go with a like a tankier support, I think you should have gone something with a lot more peel and disengage,
Yeah,
something like a
I agree.
Braum, something like an Alistair. Now Leona can disengage quite well if she chooses to play that way, but it's obviously not as strong as one of those two. But having that flexibility does help. It's sort of interesting because it's kind of all dive in, massive front line, and then two sort of really pokey backliners. So
I really didn't agree with the choice to go a blue 4-5 double engage when Azir is open, and a very easy pick. Like, Azir is so good against the Gage with his ultimate. He's very strong into both of the engage tools there. And Thresh is already a Leona counter in most ways. So I really didn't agree with the last two picks for Percent. I feel like Cerberus has the more solid teamfight draft once again.
yeah, I mean, I don't agree with
It
going
is.
triple engage into Aphelios Thresh at all with the Trundle of him on top
I mean,
of that.
I think the idea of their comp is fairly obvious. Though. You poke them down with Varus, and then you press the go button on Olaf, Wukong, and Leona.
That's right.
That's the idea, but I feel like it was too obvious. It was
Yeah,
so
I agree.
obvious, and Cerberus just said, okay, we just pick some disengage. You're gonna blow your load on that first engage, and then we'll just walk away and kill you.
actually feel like
not
Veigar
gonna be
would have
too
been
hard, I
even better. Imagine Veigar here as the last pick. Holy moly. Two champs wouldn't even exist on the other side. But Izzy is good enough.
That's very true. But as the rift does load and everyone runs out, Vinny, give us one sentence and a prediction. Is it a 2-0?
Yeah, I think it's a 2-0. I think we're seeing more or less what we saw with when Percent played up against Buffalo, and they just have these games where it's just they just forget how to draft, or like they try some weird things. So I think Cerberus has got this one.
Yep, I find myself agreeing based on the draft, but what do I know? I'm just a play-by-play caster. Let's, I don't think.
Well, I definitely agree with Vinny too. This is very akin to the Team Secret series where Percent, just as Vinny alluded to, Percent drafted one very good game and then they kind of threw away both of their chances to close out the series with two very bad drafts in the next two games. Percent hasn't really come to like a decision in terms of their team style, where Cerberus is the #1 team when it comes to knowing what to play for. So we have a lot of an interesting late invade here, but Cerberus super safe. Just give up the blue buff. Not too bad for Trundle. He can even look for a counter invade, of course, on the top side.
I think we'll get vertical jungling out of this.
Very likely, yeah.
I think he'll just go from his red to Olaf's blue. Won't get 3 buffed, but it does potentially isolate the bot lane, which with a Leona can be a little bit scary around level 3. We'll have to find out. And it is the lethality Varus. Let's just point that out.
Touch on that as well. Yeah, we are always a little bit scared. It might be a little bit weird for our newer viewers, but we have seen so many not lethality Varuses that we are always scared heading into those games. Big trait in the mid game.
He's got a taste for blood. Unfortunately, he might have been a little bit over eager.
Yeah, that was level 2 against level 1, by the way. So, Oh, and we saw the counter invade. But Eager wants to fight. This is what? Wait,
he
what?
Just knows. He just flashes out. He just says, "I don't want to try and fight an Olaf, even though he has top lane priority."
He has red buff, and he's one of the best champs into Olaf. What? That was super strange.
Decision.
That was a very strange decision from Zhuhao. I don't feel like he should have run away there. I think he can definitely take the fight, especially with red buff against no red buff.
And top lane priority. I think the top lane priority is the weirdest part. Like, Renekton was always going to get there first, but Zhuhao doesn't want to flip the game early. He's not going to throw that coin. He's just going to back off, say, well, I got the buff I came for. Didn't get me Gromp, but I'll head back into my jungle. And the camps were even in the end. Both junglers got the same amount from each other's jungle.
No flash now for Trundle. And of course, from the last game, we don't really know Trundle with flash because the last Trundle just flashed into nothing. So it's basically the last game as well. Eagle looking for the first gank, but he was spotted on the ward. This could be a big counter gank.
Oh, it definitely could be. Eagle gets pillared off. Trundle, why do you got to get me started and never let me finish?
Yeah, the Trundle is a little bit of anti-hype most of the time. It's just everything Trundle does is just so boring. It's such a fun champion.
Hello, have you seen his dance?
Okay,
his dance is fun.
Yeah, the dance is the best part. Yeah, I actually don't mind Trundle in pro play right now. I feel like he makes games interesting because there's a lot of junglers who can abuse him early game, but he's still a very good team fighter. And even though he personally doesn't really do much flashy stuff, he doesn't really have any mechanics, he can set up for cool team fights and nice counter picks. So I don't really mind the champ too much. Of course, seeing him every single game is a little bit. It gets old.
That's any champion, to be fair.
Yeah,
I don't think it's necessarily just Trundle. And here in the bot lane, have a look at this priority. Look at them getting shoved in. This is not a great start down here for the Cerberus bot lane.
They should be able to even out the CS, though, and it looks like Cerberus once again went for cheater recall, one of the very few teams in the VCS that actually understands the concept of the cheater recall. So you push out first or second wave and reset in a time where the enemy team can't reset, because Artemis is sitting on a Carl right now.
Ooh, Lisa's been hooked, but you don't want to go into that Leona.
going on there. So Artemis is just going to struggle for a little bit. The range disadvantage is not the greatest. The Aphelios, of course, can sustain up using his red gun. Early game, it's only like 5% lifesteal right now, so it's not really amounting to much. But with the extra Dawn Shield and the Cull, it's okay on hit heal. So I feel like he's just going to be fine. Look at the CS. They have been equalized with the wave crashing into the turret. So he's in a good position. And with the Cull early on, that's going to cash in pretty early on in the game. 120 CS should be the mark where the Cull comes in.
Yep, for sure. And it could be very appropriate that we're talking about cheater recalls, as with these team comps and these two teams, we might be looking at a bit of an LCK style game. Another hook lands, but nothing really comes of it.
Dodge.
This is very well done, as this one should be a little bit slower. Artemis, yep, they got that cheater recall for a Cull. They are not looking to fight in the bot lane.
No.
Mid lane Karma, maybe you play in the top lane?
I mean, you might be able to look for something, especially if LL overextends there. It's quite easy to get on top of Renekton, of course, with the... Oh, never mind.
Ooh,
Artemis is getting
speaking
caught.
of getting on top of people, Artemis was way overextended. The Lantern's a pretty broken spell, though, and he flashes away. Will he be able to get away from the mid lane on the top side of the fight? Let's have a look at that. No, Aphelios is out, so we come back down. Varus has died, and it started out so well for Percent.
No LCK today. Yeah, we are in the VCS here. we want action, and what a great capitalization of the overextension for Percent. TP advantage utilized. LL, of course, knew that 𝗬𝗲 couldn't respond, also due to better wave play from LL. So once again, we see the small little things. Cerberus is a little bit advanced in compared to other VCS teams, especially compared to Percent, who are basically just let's brawl and see if we can win. Cerberus still has some of these aspects that come from other leagues, maybe from very good VOD reviews. We can see they use wave pressure for resets, and that was the perfect example. LL knew he had TP advantage, and when the TP comes in and the grab lands, the grab also highlight play here. Look at the grab when it comes in. That was the 2-0 for the Renekton, so now Wukong in a very sad spot in top lane. Look at this grab. This actually enabled the play to come in. You see the TP actually only gets started when the grab lands, because he knows he can now get the kill. Very easy. He even gets a double kill here.
Yeah.
Flash
and
ult.
This is a very happy top laner. Sometimes we see top laners TP down and the enemy lane goes, oh, a TP, run away. And the top laner arrives and is like, I'm here. But we'll have to come back to it as in they come again. And this is going to be exactly what I'm talking about. It's a mid laner, of course, but Glory spends the summoner and then speeds on back up the river.
We see the difference in coordination in the teams a little bit. I don't want to overblow this point, but of course, you saw Ronopy hit the grab and then the TP came in. Here we saw the TP come in as a counter gang measure, or means to, as a counter gangs. But Glory spent a lot of time using that, and now he doesn't have the TP to get back to lane, which means a lot of pressure for Yado, a lot of free time for him to farm up. You can already see he has one wave advantage.
Lisa
there's
goes
no
in
flash for
again.
Artemis.
Artemis is low health, but there's no flash, but there is a lantern. And once again, Ron OP lives up to his name.
It's much more action-packed than expected, especially in the bot lane. This is some very hype gameplay, and this is a very, very, very aggressive start. LL, of course, collected the double kill. He has ult available. He's a strong crocodile. You probably don't want to fight him right now.
There's no Cyclone on Wukong. 𝗬𝗲 stuffed and engaged and burnt the Cyclone.
Oh no. Don't throw the game here.
2,000 health on the Herald. Yado is on less health than Glory, so the health bars are very slightly
and Lisa's here.
Favor. Lisa is here, but there it is. Zhuhao just goes around, gets the eye, gets the Herald. There is the big shuffle, and here we go, Cerberus. They're cleaning it up. One has fired back. LL gets out with the lantern. A hook forces a flash. Lisa might be sacrificed to the gods, as here they go, the pillar, and LL is a 3-0 crocodile.
No, Percent. Why are you throwing away all your chances to come back into this game? Why would you do that?
Your Mike was just as upset with Percent there. Probably, he doesn't even care. He's just throwing hooks out left, right, and center, buffing his stats.
So, in theory, the start with the priority in bot lane and mid lane wasn't the worst, but you have to take into consideration that Renekton, especially with the 2 kills and the ult advantage compared to Wukong, basically counts as 2 champions this early on in the game. So look at all the time
Let's have a look at this
he can
replay.
buy.
Look at 𝗂𝗃. Look how
This
sick
was
that play
so
was.
well played for 𝗂𝗃.
Flash over the Herald to hit the eye and smite. And then Yado arrives.
I was actually very, very scared for Yado coming in there and flashing over to get the shuffle in. But in the end, it works out for him because all of his tanks are still alive. And another perfect... this pillar also perfectly positioned for 𝗂𝗃. Great fight for 𝗂𝗃, great fight for LL. And once again, we just see everyone on Cerberus is good team fighters and know what to do.
I've also got to praise Yado a little bit there because, I mean, I think he knows he dies from that play. He's putting himself right next to a Wukong who is on nearly full health because Wukong wasn't going to get shuffled. He says, you know what? I might die here, but my team can clean this up with the damage. Very self-sacrificial. You love to see it.
Very much Yado style.
That very much operates as a team, which we don't always see in the VCS.
Yeah, this is very much Yado style. We talked about this with the VCS deficit in the last game, where Yado just sacrifices a lot for his other teammates. We had an interview with Yado, and the only thing he cares about is winning. He wants to win his VCS. He has been in the VCS for quite some time now, and he wants to win the title. And he has really found a style for himself where he doesn't really shine much. He's far away from having the most MVP points on his team. But he's still such a big asset and such a big facilitator for the big carries in top and bot lane.
Absolutely. And look at this. Aphelios is mining towers and he's going to get the Herald summoned up as well. You don't want this much gold in an Aphelios. Can the Varus
that was only
gap?
one. Okay.
No, it was 3 plays. It was
The 160 gold irritated me, but of course the 160 split went over to 𝗂𝗃 as well because he spawned the Herald. So it was 2 plates, of course, going down with the Herald. So overall, 240 gold, basically a kill for Artemis. He is now close to also completing his call, so the IE should come in for the next big fight around probably Rift Herald 2, because this dragon will not get contested by %.
Please say it won't. I do feel like there's a little bit of... I don't think tilt is the right word. I feel like maybe % kind of recognized what we did, that they're just sort of... They are Cerberus, but a little bit worse, so they didn't want to play Cerberus's game, despite that being what they're good at as well. And woohoo! Not getting much done there, but it was an ult trade at least.
Oh, I love this champion. Such a great champion.
The
steal attack.
Oh, but it's not going to pay off as the Gravitum Moonlight Vigil was used. Lisa flashes away.
I mean, these are some small little plays you can go for. I like that % this time around. Last game, honestly, as well, recognized that they should not contest Cerberus on these early dragon fights where they're 3k gold down. Because as I said, last week against OPG just contested every single objective. And after 20 minutes, the game was over. At least we can see that % has a little bit of patience. But I definitely echo your point that it looks like % just doesn't know how to win these games. It's so hard for them to imagine how to win against Cerberus when Cerberus basically is just playing like them, but from like 5 years ahead. It's so hard for them to do anything.
Yeah.
It's a little bit sad to watch, but also...
I feel like the solution was just to back yourself as %. You just had, don't alter your style that's been pretty successful so far to try and counter-strat Cerberus. It's not going to work. Just play your style and say, we're going to execute it better on the day. We're just going to do it better.
Like two schools of thought here, right? The one is, okay, we can't win against this team playing our style, so we have to try and cheese. If it doesn't work, it looks bad, but honestly, it doesn't matter because we wouldn't have won anyway. And the other school of thought is what you just described. Okay, we'll just try, and we get a lot of these games where the worst team just tries to play their style and just doesn't do enough. In the LCK, actually, if you look like the bottom tier teams, a lot of them just try to play the same style as the top tier teams, then just get suffocated out of the game. So I actually don't mind % looking for different styles to attack Cerberus, especially if they identify themselves that they can't win. But of course, leads to these kinds of games where it does look a little bit sad.
I think I agree with you when you're talking about more established teams. I think Percent is still finding their feet. And I think
That's
this is
true.
true for a lot of minor region teams, is just get good at one style. Get really, really good, because particularly with some rookies on your team, you're probably not good enough to play two styles really well. But you can play one. Just get good at it. Practice it against the best team in the league. And yeah, they probably 2-0 you, but you could have made it close and come away with some really good learning.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, I feel like I would also say the style of cheesing the better team is better in best of one leagues, of course, because it's easier to get just one victory than two victories. Two is so hard. A best of three series is so hard to win, especially from both sides. And yeah, we just see this game kind of very quickly go out of control for Percent. They can't really do much right now. Just have to pray for a better item breakpoint where they can contest the next dragon. We're heading to an Infernal Rift in 2 minutes. There will be the third Drake spawning, and giving that one up will be super dangerous for Percent. So I feel like we'll see the game-deciding fight in about 2 minutes when Percent tries to engage on the dragon.
Very, very possible. And one other thing to note is we identified Percent's win condition, which was poke with Varus, then run in with the Wukong. Ooh, Ron OP actually misses a hook. You don't see that too often. But it's turned around with the Chains of Corruption. They're going to go forward. Lisa dealing a lot, but he just goes gold. And now 𝗬𝗏's arrived. The kill goes over 3v2. An excellent ult out of Lisa, but it doesn't matter because the flamethrower came out and got them the 1-for-1.
He has one item. That is not okay. He does so much damage. Aphelios things. Oh, man. The crit scaling even got nerfed from the ultimate. It still dealt insane amounts of damage. Oh, God.
I think there's something some people say about his design. Something about how long it took. I don't really know the joke. But moving on. The other big problem, let's just have a look at this replay. It's going to be very short. And
it's very sad to see from Ron OP's position. He just kind of messes up everything for himself.
Well, the stopwatch bought a lot of time.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
The flash, I guess he thought he could live, but the ignite was still on him. Look at that damage. That was half the HP bar for the tanky support just gone in one ability.
Yeah.
Okay. Aphelios things, apparently.
Yeah, Aphelios things. It was also a very nice cleanse out of Artemis. It was pretty much the second the Leona ult landed. It looked like it didn't even stun him. It was pretty absurd. What I was going to say, I keep trying to make this point, but they just don't stop. Not again. Lisa should be able to walk away. The Wukong can't leave the side lane because LL is too goddamn big. And the Wukong ult is such an important part of their engage. It is required.
There we go.
And here he goes. Finally, the monkey hits something, and he will claim the kill on Ron OP. Do Cerberus take the 4v5? They certainly don't.
So we actually see what I described as the last chance for 4%, but the fight is not over. They want to continue this one. Dangerous, Percent dangerous.
Collapsing. Very quick team is Percent with the Karma, but Cerberus disengaging. Will they keep going? Lisa will throw the Zenith Blade. He's gone a little bit too far forward there. Instantly goes gold, flashes away. Chains of Corruption onto LL. There's the Aphelios ult, not doing much. This is getting dangerous. There's Lisa's ult, straight onto Artemis. 𝗬𝗏 in the middle of the enemy team. Varus poke coming over, but the first kill will go to Cerberus. Percent still has
Yado!
But Yado puts up the Great Wall of China. He dies for it, and now it continues to turn. Cerberus, there's no way out for Artemis. He's got to go through a tower. He tries to trade. He can't. And it's 4 kills to Percent.
Once again, Percent fight the miracle team fight to get back into the game. And this is something Cerberus also has struggled with a little bit. They are our best team, but we need to criticize them for their faults still. They still need to improve on a lot of things. And one thing they have been slacking is dragon control before the dragon spawns. And once again, they are second to the dragon. They give up the objective. Very good pick as well. Let's look at this team fight. It looks like Lisa overextends, but once again, the stopwatch buys so much time he also flashes away here. And LL can't really use all of his damage. He's not super tanky. He deals a lot of damage, but he just gets zoned away. Another fantastic Leona ult indeed. And this time Arthas doesn't have the cleanse to get away. And honestly, at this point, Cerberus is dead already because there's nowhere they can go. There is no exit from this point out. So Artemis dies as well. Even 𝗬𝗏 goes down to a very aggressive flash from Bikor. They get a lot of kills. So now only a 2k gold deficit. There is a little bit of a fighting chance now for percent.
Absolutely. And it's
They also
given
stopped the Dragon
YT a
Snowball.
chance, and that's very true as well. Good point. They have given YT a chance in the solo lane as well. He got a lot of kills there. He's now 4-0, equalized the kills. Renekton probably still wins the 1v1 without the Wukong ult. I'm actually not 100% sure how that one goes. It's probably pretty close.
I think Renekton wins because of his sustain
But I think
right
Renekton
now.
wins.
Yeah. He has
Particularly with
Blade.
Bork.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it still is much, much better for sure. And
Speaking of Wukong.
Oh dear. Oh, yep, that was, of course, just the clone. Nothing will happen here. They're just going to push this in. Cerberus
One
with
of the
match
best
control.
champs against Trundle, by the way. If you struggle to find a champ to live against Trundle, just pick Wukong. He can W over the pillar or away from the pillar, and Trundle.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Artemis, though. He's been caught, but he's getting away. He doesn't land that
Close.
𝗂𝗃𝗏 Q, and no one dies. Very
Oh.
close. Lisa, we did say he had a fantastic Leona game. So far, he's repeating it.
Yeah, very impressive performance. And 𝗀𝗏𝗵 missing some crucial engage tools. He's also in a precarious situation right now. Maybe don't go there. Not sure what 𝗀𝗏𝗵 is thinking right now. He's just going to
He
die.
gets engaged on. He flays, but it's not going to be enough as the aftershock from Lisa will clean it up, but it's a trade of support.
Look,
Now
outside.
LL's got everything to do.
What?
He's trying to cut Big Coro down, but falls at his feet just a tick of damage short.
Cerberus is kind of losing their minds right now. What is going on? Please calm down. This is looking a little bit sloppy, and they have had great early game leads in both of these games, but their mid game has looked a little bit weird. For sure, too many mistakes when it comes to positioning. No idea what 𝗀𝗏𝗵 were thinking there, and LL also. I guess he was close, but still, you don't really have to go for the trade. And once again, giving up another kill. And now giving map control over to the Wukong, who immediately gets another turret in the top lane, so gold lead even closer. But we take a look at how this all happened in the mid lane. Artem is very close to dying, cleanses the Ignite. Ignite would have killed him.
Yep.
So the cleanse mostly to deny the
You can
Ignite
just
kill.
walk away here.
Yeah, I'm like, just walk around like Artemis did. Why did 𝗀𝗏𝗵 try to posture there? I really don't understand what he was thinking. I guess he gets the counter kill because Lisa is separated from his team and the teleport comes in. So maybe he was just a bait and tried to live there anyway. But on the other hand, LL is also separated. So it's a 2-for-1 overall for percent. And that shouldn't happen from Cerberus's position.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting close.
Yeah,
it's getting close.
That it is. And 20 seconds from now, an Infernal Dragon will grace us with his presence. He'll fly in and possibly give us another team fight. But once again,
position. Yeah.
Look who has bottom river control. Cerberus. This is the biggest weakness in their game, I think. Chains of Corruption used. Hook will land onto Lisa, but he goes in anyway. And the monkey will spin. He knocks everyone up. 𝗬𝗏𝗏 very low. He goes for the second knock up, but the health bars aren't falling yet. The damage needs to be dealt. Ragnarok-ing Olaf. They're trying to get a bit of poke. It's not quite done enough. There's Glory hit a very big Q in there. And percent with the health bar lead just walk to Dragon.
Yeah, they should be very easy dragon. They also already secured the 𝗬𝗏𝗏, of course. So another good engage, another assertive play for percent. Very risky because Eagle was super far away, and immediately Cerberus used their opportunity to turn on Baron.
But percent
too
read
aggressive. Yeah.
Percent did read it, so very well done there. It will be the Dragon.
Yeah, percent is straight up outplaying Cerberus in this mid game. They are getting closer and closer in gold, and 2 Infernal Drakes now to their name, almost as strong as 1 Infernal Drake last season. So we're getting there, Especially good for Varus, who just needs straight AD. Wukong also likes it a lot, so they actually have champs, every single champ can kind of do something with this Infernal Drake. Leona maybe not so much. But even the Black Cleaver now on Eagle. So this team is getting scarier, and we talked about teamfight scaling. I still feel like Cerberus is in an advantageous position late game, but right now, looking at the items, 2 items completed for Glory. He's super strong. 2 items completed YT. He's insanely strong. And then the poke is coming in from 3 lethality items already built by Bikoro. So right now, I would actually say percent is in a better position to fight. And we've seen that in the last 2 fights.
One thing to worth noting is Cerberus lost that fight, but they didn't get decimated. It's not like they got aced, and that was one of the best Wukong ults we've seen. YT went in like a bat out of hell and knocked up 4 people, including both carries. That was insane.
I actually thought that ultimate would not lead too much because the other members were too far away. But in the end, it chunked them enough to guarantee the dragon. Cerberus looking for some plays and actually forcing teleport from Glory. I'm not sure why Glory TP'd there. Certainly didn't need to. But also his TP is not super valuable. So Cerberus gets another turret in the bot lane and defend top lane. So still in a firm gold lead, 2k, but at 25 minutes, and also compared to the 2 scaling Infernal Drakes, it's not really anything of a lead. Artemis needs to be careful. Okay, there we go.
Yep, he gets away the lantern once again, but they're sieging onto this tower. Eagle threatening Chains of Corruption and a good piercing arrow, dealing a lot of damage. But Cerberus will take control and be able to clear the way.
And Artemis has red gun, so no problem just farming back up to full HP. There's an interesting ping on the map, I think. They want to look for a flank. There was a ping on the very, very deep ward there. They wanted to look for a flank, but in the end, Cerberus call off the play, and instead now cede control of the mid wave, which Percent immediately uses to run at Baron. Can Cerberus spot this?
They are starting it off. It's going to be hard to read this because they can see 𝗘𝗀𝗃𝗕𝗥𝗕𝗏.
It's so slow, though.
Want to be on the damage. Trundle Pillar forces 2 flashes. What a value pillar. The subjugation has been used. Zhuhao's tanky. But the Baron is called off. An inner tower goes down. Cerberus kind of need to find something here.
Glory. Oh, man, that was so risky from Glory jumping over there.
𝗘𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗏 on towers, though. He takes it down.
Yeah, but Wukong on towers is even worse. As you can see, top lane inhibitor almost raised immediately. But okay. What is this positioning? So aggressive.
What is going on? This is ridiculous positioning, but he does so much damage. Can they re-engage on him? It's going to be hard. He gets that wiggly arm red gun going.
YT from the side.
With a ridiculous bit of positioning, they back off, summon the Sun Disc. And they're just going to get away with that.
So there are 2 pink wards on Baron. So Baron is kind of hard to start for them because it would be very easy to read, but they still want to try. Not the greatest guns for Baron. Actually, Infernum is not bad because it has 110% damage. So they should be able to... Ooh, look at the... This is very, very, very quick. And Eagle has no ultimate. He has Flash and Smite, though.
He does. They're going to come in. Can Eagle get close enough? No. And no miracle steals. LL, he's very, very low. He's trying to slice and dice out. YT is spinning, but he's not winning. It's only the 1-for-1. And now they're chasing onto Percent, but I don't think you ever catch that team.
So 10% get the dragon instead. It's 50 seconds, so probably not. This is now probably going to break the game open once again for Cerberus. They kind of threw away their lead, but now they're back in a very good position. 3 items already complete for Artemis. He used the stopwatch there. We hopefully get to see why he flashed forward.
He flashed! Oh my god! He is so Chad that he shares the border with Cameroon. As here we go. Artemis!
Oh my god, what was that? Artemis lost his mind there, but honestly, his damage was insane.
That was nutty. It was a good flash in the end. It worked.
I
what
guess.
A Chad. Oh my god.
He's very vulnerable in the next fight, though. So, and he's very far forward in terms of his positioning. His cleanse almost available right now. He's not sitting on any summoner spell, so he needs to be careful.
Yep, it is the Infernal Drake being taken pretty easily in the end. And Percent, once again, Karma speeding away. You have to question, the Karma pick hasn't been bad, but is it worth putting Glory on? I think that's something we're going to have to talk about maybe on a podcast episode sometime. There's no time to talk about it now.
Yeah, for sure. So at least mid lane positioning of a Percent. Will Cerberus look for an engage from the side? LL is kind of gate capped by the
LL, he's going in. Big Coro, he can't find him. He uses the dice to get out. He's very low. And it's another Leona ult straight on Artemis's head. Lisa is shutting down this 𝗘𝗏𝗃𝗏 as best as he damn well can.
Risky plays from both teams. I really like this game. It's super tense, and both teams are trying to find ways to finish this game. But now Percent actually in a good position, even though they're playing against Baron and a super strong team. They still get the turret, in the grand scheme of things, they still lost the soul point, of course. So soul is going to be on the horizon in 4 minutes. This will be game-ending soul. Too much damage. Okay, 𝗀𝗏𝗃, calm down there.
Settle. Burns his flash, and he's not running a hex flash. 𝗬𝗏𝗺 has been caught. He's knocked up by the monkey. Can they keep 𝗬𝗏𝗺 alive? He goes into his guardian angel. Can they get him when he gets up? It is all about 𝗬𝗏𝗺, and he explodes. 𝗀𝗏𝗃 will follow him to the grave, and Percent get 2 perfect picks.
The worst possible timing to get kills, especially on 𝗬𝗏𝗺, because, okay, you get a little bit of gold, you get his GA, that's actually very valuable, but you used a lot of flashes, and there's nothing to take right now. You can't push inhibitors into Baron, so it's just a prolonged reset, basically. You get a little bit of gold, and, as I said before, the GA is a big thing, but in the next fight, 𝗬𝗏𝗺 will have his flash available, so in the end, this is not super useful.
Look at 𝗬𝗏𝗺. He's too far away. He's only leaving base now.
Yeah. 𝗬𝗏𝗺 actually gets away quite... a very, very good karma Q from Glory. That was the most important damage there to get him into the GA. Can't reposition in GA, of course, and once he's out of there, he's still in 4 or 5 members of the enemy team, so he basically just goes down immediately afterwards again. It's getting very, very tense, but I still feel like Cerberus still has all the advantages on their side, and they're looking at the soul in 2.5 minutes with flash on their ADC available.
The one thing that is scaring me is if 𝗬𝗏𝗺 is not in a fight or gets soloed out early, Percent, even if they trade 1-for-1, as long as it's not like the Wukong, I think they just win fights. This Emperor's Divide is probably the most important spell in the game.
It's very, very big, yeah. And Wukong, so far Wukong has found the angles to get on top of 𝗬𝗏𝗺, but in 2 fights he has been too far zoned away. So this is one of the most crucial parts. The enemy team, so Cerberus, needs to keep close tabs on the Wukong. And if they're able to gatekeep him, and maybe with a pillar, or maybe with the Emperor's Divide, as he touched on, then suddenly Wukong can't jump on 𝗬𝗏𝗺, and then the damage from 𝗬𝗏𝗺 and 𝗬𝗏𝗺 is just too much to overcome for Percent. So how they play around Wukong, maybe even... there's another engage.
We have another engage, that we do. The top laners are both zoning each other off, but LL will not commit to the fight, and neither will either of the teams.
Yeah, there wasn't really anything to fight for, so I didn't expect the engage to happen, but both teams are still very keen to just start random fights in the middle. 𝗬𝗏𝗺 is super far forward again.
𝗬𝗏𝗺 is so far forward. He gets hit by the Chains of Corruption and the Leona ult. And oh, good God. Now we see why Chad is not doing so well on the African continent. And he goes down. That's going to be the Sun Disc cleaned up. Uh-oh.
Okay. Still a little bit too early for the Dragon, but they might be able to get an inhibitor this time. No Baron, but 𝗬𝗏𝗺 has a lot of wave clear still.
Yep, they are sieging onto it, but the wave clear is just a little bit too much for now. Baron in 30, for sure. Dragon in 45.
And 𝗬𝗏𝗺 will be a little bit late for the Dragon, for the Baron, especially if they run straight at Baron. Instead, looks for the engage.
Oh, here we go. Lisa using the new blast cone. It might have been over aggressive though. He gets hooked.
Oh, yeah.
Does he go down? He absolutely does. LL, he's on nothing though. I don't know if he really wanted to go in there, as it is the Croc dead. 𝗬𝗏𝗺 respawning. Top laner for support.
Yeah, it's definitely advantageous for Percent. 𝗬𝗏𝗺, okay. Trundle?
Oh my God, Zhu, you cannot do that right before the dragon spawns and Percent move to Soul Point momentarily.
I mean, there's always 200
They
years.
are not taking this, surely. What are you doing, Cerberus? This is absolutely shocking. They seem to want a game 3. 𝗬𝗏𝗺, come on, son. There is a Wukong on the other team. You cannot do that.
𝗬𝗏𝗺's play this game has been horribly bad. What is going on with 𝗬𝗏𝗺? He was coming in this week and we were still saying he's the best player in the league, but today's series has been very, very bad, especially this game. And once again blows both of his summoner spells. He now is sitting duck. Is very easy to kill for YT, who will have his flash soon. So chasing him down in the team fight should be easy. And this will be Dragon and Baron for Percent, which means they will finally be in the gold lead for the first time in this game. Also, the next Dragon is finally the Soul. We are moving to a 7 Drake game. And the soul should still decide this game. So there's a little bit to fight for still.
Absolutely. This game is not over. It feels like Cerberus still has the ability to win fights if Artemis can just switch the brain machine on. That's a meme we haven't brought out in a while. The VCS brain machine behind Cerberus is on the bloody fritz because Artemis is having brain breaks every 30 seconds.
He's still powering up in terms of items. He is now sitting on his GA again. The GA is available for the next team fight. They have cleansed the QSS and 𝗬𝗂𝗃𝗏, so he shouldn't be able to be chased down by CC. Knockups, of course, are very helpful, but most of the times it was actually Lisa landing good ultimates to start fights on him, so he should be immune to that. He just needs to work on his positioning, honestly. He has been so far forward in all the team fights, and I know Aphelios players like to go melee mode because he's one of the best ADCs when it comes to that, especially with the right guns, but I think he needs to change to a little bit more of a Caitlyn playstyle and wait and kite, and maybe try to profit from 𝗂𝗧𝗏's positioning as well.
And that should be obvious, right? Like, that's normally your takes are very smart, Yulwei, don't get me wrong, but that's not a particularly big brain take. You're
No.
against an Olaf and a Wukong. Stay the hell back. What are you doing, son?
Yeah, he's not quite at the level he can just activate his red gun and just out-sustain all the damage, and I don't feel like he will ever get to that point in this game. We'll look at all the damage from the other team. Can Percent finally break the inhibitor for Cerberus? Cerberus, quite a good defense with all the defensive CC, but we see the engage.
Oh, but here they go. YT's found Artemis again, and look at all the damage. He goes into the GA. This time they won't be able to get him immediately after. LL goes onto that GA as well. They've all got second line.
Oh, no.
As they're trying to get this Aphelios, but did they overcommit to the Moon Boy? As they've lost 2. They got the tower. They get 1 kill back. Will this fight continue? Not quite. Where the hell are you, Ron-OP? What a
He
bait
used the
play.
blast cone.
This was a really smart bait, though. This pulled them off the tower.
And he gets another grab.
Now gets caught. Oh my god, Ron-OP outthinking the whole world. As it's not quite
And
enough
they
damage.
chase for kills.
Jesus Christ. Maybe they are
𝗂𝗏?
split from the karma, but that was 𝗂𝗏's big movement, and I believe the fight has finally ended.
Hopefully. We're finally getting to the point where even random teamfights with no objectives on the map can just be the end of the game, especially if Percent wins a teamfight here. But they overextended a little bit too far into the enemy base, though, in the grand scheme of things, once again, looking at the items can actually be beneficial for them. Of course, they used that GA on YT, but they got 2 GAs on the other side. So now Artemis without his GA for the next fight, as well as LL not able to tank forever in the front line. Look at how long LL stays alive in 4, focused by 4 members. That is absolutely insane. He just goes into his GA. He's still there. He's still annoying. They still can't really go past him because he then can just re-engage afterwards. So he buys a lot of time with his GA. Still goes down to a very good piercing arrow from 𝗬𝗏𝗏, who has been a crucial part of this team as well. 5, 1, and 11. He has completed his itemization. Look at that. All the 𝗬𝗏 items you can get.
Yep, he is very literally done with the build. He doesn't get stronger than this, and oh boy, is he strong. To see now.
There is a little bit of a problem with itemization, where Azir is still far away from his 6 item point, while Karma is approaching hers, and as we just pointed out, 𝗬𝗏𝗏 has already built all his items he can build. So in terms of raw power, Azir is only going to get stronger, while the other 2 are staying at the same power level. So feels like 𝗂𝗧𝗏 can now carry his team to victory after he has been more of the facilitator. Artemis has flash available, but he needs to still be careful. Last flash was just...
Look at the damage!
Yeah.
That was 1 glory Q. The follow-up wasn't even there, and he takes half his health bar.
And he needs to get close. He has red gun, but right now he can't attack anything. So with the minion wave approaching, this should be enough to get him back to full HP. There we go. That is Aphelios.
Built 0 lifesteal.
But look at that! Look at that!
Soul. It's just soul. This is Percent picking up the infernal soul. I think game 3 is looking more and more likely.
Or infernal soul.
Is pretty
16%. This is some insane damage, and we already saw the poke being very, very difficult to deal with. for Artemis. Now it's only going to get worse, especially from Karma and Varus, of course, as well. So how can they do this? How can they
for glory?
Yeah. How can they ever get to a fight? Because right now I feel like Cerberus could still win fights if they were able to get close to the backline. But so Percent is playing this very smartly, where Lisa and 𝗬𝗃 are full engaging on the backline, and the rest stays back and just pokes. So it doesn't actually commit to a dangerous position. And if they continue that trend, they should be able to just outrange Artemis and whittle him down with poke.
That is certainly the goal. And Artemis has to be feeling scared to approach these team fights. Every team fight, look at that damage, has had Lisa dropping an ult directly on his head. I think every Leona ult has been aimed at Artemis.
Yep.
He's not hitting anyone else. And why would you? You just got to shut this 𝗂𝗏𝗧 down. I think we need to see 𝗬𝗏 really pop off in a fight here because they figured Artemis out.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I said Azir is going to be the main carry. I feel like the good itemization choice for 𝗬𝗏. Instead of completing his Ludens, he went straight into the Void stuff. So now he has a lot of penetration, especially good against the Wukong and Eagle. So the front line is not super tanky anymore. They can shred through the front line very easily with 𝗬𝗏 and Artemis consistent damage.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. That is just one Q from Eagle, who's a full tank, or almost full tank. That is 𝗓𝗏𝗧. That is a lot of damage.
This is so hard for Cerberus to approach. They have to get a mad flank. I'm not sure.
Eagle is caught.
I know where he is now, of course. Eagle is a little bit caught, but Karma Shield. She's got a death cap and an Athenes. You just don't die. They've got a health bar lead, but Cerberus just can't make it happen. How do they get back into this? Baron is alive, and there's a recall coming in to deal with 𝗬𝗃 because LL can't. This could be an inhib as they start their duel. Dominus gets the Cyclone. They're committing. They're trying to trade Baron for a kill. Can they even get onto the monkey as he just flashes away? This is disaster. Oh, 𝗬𝗏 does not have teleport.
They stopped the Baron.
Never mind. They pulled off. They got scared. And
so now this trade is actually very, very good for Cerberus. They got the flash and the ultimate from 𝗬𝗃. Percent can't fight. Also, GA. They have actually managed to not fight while the GA was on cooldown. So now GA back for Artemis and LL. That is super, super important for the next team fight. 4.5 items for Azir. I feel like looking at the team compositions, even against 𝗓𝗏𝗧, I would still favor Cerberus, especially if they can get into a good position, maybe a defensive position fighting around their own base. But the game will be decided on the next dragon, which is, of course, the elder one.
We are getting to a point of itemization because the gold totals are so accelerated due to the amount of kills that are coming in. Not that they're particularly high for VCS standards, but for a normal game of League of Legends, the gold totals are very, very inflated. We're getting to that. Everyone is 6 items. It's just mechanics. We are getting to that stage.
Can they get 𝗬𝗃 now?
On the run. It's huge if they get him, but they have to do it fairly quickly. He knocks them both up. There's the Emperor's Divide. They've got his clone, but can they get the real one? That's his GA.
Good flash.
Here comes the rest. 𝗃𝗏𝗏 misses the ult. In fact, it was flashed. Here we go. Wukong is dead. Cerberus, this is your best chance. The Moonlight Vigil has not come out yet. We still have potential for 2.
Teleport for 𝗬𝗏𝗏.
They are chasing onto Lisa. They don't hit the hook. They thought he would juke. And Percent get away.
Once again, we have to question if this is really worth it for Cerberus, because they used the flash on one of the main carries for 𝗬𝗏𝗏 just to kill 𝗬𝗃 after he already used his GA in the last fight. They could just try to go for the Baron. 𝗬𝗃 has ultimate and teleport available once he's back, but it's 30 seconds. They should be able to burst this down, and without 𝗬𝗃, Percent can't really contest this one. So, a very good call for Cerberus, assertive on the map. Just going, look at this one.
It just goes down. That was a very short-lived Baron. Ron-OP flays Lisa away, but he has the gargoyles to keep him safe. LL is charging towards the carry. Lisa's got no chance. The Crocodile's in the team. There's lots of heals coming out of Glory, but will it be enough? 𝗃𝗏𝗏 split. There he goes. Artemis flashes forward, but the 𝗓𝗏𝗏𝗏 doesn't do much single target damage. 𝗬𝗏𝗏's picked one up on the side, and the pillar is good. And Cerberus have righted the ship. is it game? Because here's 𝗬𝗃. He's gotten to the enemy base. He wants the inhib. 𝗬𝗏 and LL, they're going to come forward. He got one tower. He's going to get
Importantly,
away.
he actually
This
killed the
is
wave.
deadly. I said he's going to get away. I think that might have been a lie because here's 𝗀𝗏, locks him up, throws out the lantern so 𝗬𝗏 can reposition. There's the cyclone. He's trying his best, but 𝗀𝗏 claims the kill. He did
60
kill the wave.
seconds.
There's 30 seconds on 𝗏𝗏𝗺𝗀, 25 on Eagle. Here they go. That turret does not live for long. The inhib will fall as well. There is still a wave. The rest of Cerberus are approaching. Are Cerberus about to take this one, or will Glory and Lisa be the heroes? The wave died. Glory.
Next one is coming in. They have Baron. They just go bot.
They absolutely have Baron. 5 seconds on 𝗏𝗏𝗺𝗀 though. 2 inhibs taken. This is already good for Cerberus, but can they close out the series and continue an undefeated streak? Artemis cleanses the slow from the Leona roll. It's looking likely. 1 Nexus turret left. LL is next to it. He takes it down. 𝗬𝗏 on a sliver of health, as is Artemis, but he is firing. This 𝗬𝗏𝗺𝗏𝗧 is ripping them up. He is the big gunman, and they will take the 2-0 win, and it's Cerberus righting the ship.
45 minutes of insanity. Cerberus looking almost defeated there, but in the end, they still find the correct fight. They make the good judgment to just go on 𝗬𝗏 over and over again, use the pick to snowball that into Baron, and in the end, that is what gives them the victory here. 10-0 now, 5-0 in series. They haven't lost a single game, but it has been very close today.
Yep, there are a couple of games maybe they aren't super happy with, and I think we can add that one to the pile. But a win is a win is a win. And Vinny, I know your boys have lost it, but what did you think of that second game?
I think both teams, they both played out pretty mediocre, honestly. But so Cerberus started off really well. Percent played really well to get back into it, though there was a lot of Artemis just sort of hinting into them. But in the end, Cerberus did win because of draft. And that's not because, we did say it was kind of a weird draft from them, but they were showing that the draft wasn't really going to make them lose the game until it got to 6 items, in which case you do run out of damage with your composition as percent, right? You saw when they were trying to take the Baron while they went after 𝗬𝗏𝗺𝗃, they couldn't do the Baron because Lethality Varus
They
doesn't
had
do
no Baron
damage.
damage. Quite sad to watch.
Lethality Varus does not do much Baron damage, and LL could survive for a while because he had a good amount of armor, which meant the lethality is greatly reduced, and he doesn't have the attack speed or the crit or the constant percent health damage that the
passive
hit build does.
The passive, yeah.
So you do miss out on that damage once you hit those six item team fights. And yeah, it was just they got themselves back into a good position to win, but then they couldn't close it out in time before 6 items, in which case they run out of juice. And Cerberus wins it. So
absolutely
good showing,
but
they lost to
I think both cars were running on empty at the end of that game. Cerberus squeak it over the line. We have to pick an MVP for game 2. What do we think, lads?
Ooh.
It's hard. I think the candidates are LL, 𝗬𝗏𝗺𝗏, and Artemis. Those are the candidates. I think Artemis made a few too many. He made too many mistakes, but he was very important.
What about Ron?
Ron, I think he did some weird stuff. That mid lane play that sort of got percent back in the game. I think it's hard to give him MVP. He played well when he was good, but he made some. I kind of lead towards 𝗬𝗏𝗺𝗏. I think the EZ was really important.
I think so too.
I think 𝗬𝗏𝗺𝗏 played the most consistent best game in that.
Kind of wasn't the factor for the first 25 minutes, but they won 45, so we have to look at the last 20, and I feel like he was the main factor there for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's go 𝗬𝗏𝗺𝗏.
And it was super impressive. And our player of the series will as well be 𝗬𝗏𝗺𝗏. He had a fantastic performance in the mid lane as Cerberus do storm to a 10-0 game score start in this league. They're 5-0 in series. There's only been 2 games that it's looked like they might lose. One against 𝗂𝗏𝗏 and that one we just watched. This team is terrifying. but I think Percent can take a lot away from that second game in particular. VOD review that one damn close, because you were one or two mistakes away from taking the win.
Yeah.
Against the best team in the league so far. Percent
Absolutely.
can be a little bit sad with their score. It's kind of looking at the score, it's 2-3. They are in a negative record now, so it looks worse than the games have been. For me, they are still firmly the third best team, so I feel like they will get some more victories against some weaker opponents. They've played against Team Secret already, and they've played against Cerberus now, so weaker opponents ahead for the rest of round 1.
Absolutely. And with that, we will bring our coverage of game 1 to an end. Cerberus are your winners, 2-0. We have our final rematch from the spring split coming up after the break. It is Garm taking on Flash. Both teams are not quite in the form they were then, but we'll have to see who will take it today. We know there's a lot of pride on the line. I'd like to thank Yulwei and Vinnie, as always, for joining me, and of course, Spoods doing the production. Game 1 was rough because of internet issues, but the production, as always, has been fantastic. The graphics are amazing, and we love you for it. Thank you for joining us here on VCS English. If you do, go have a gander below the stream. Should join our Discord community, have a chat with us when we're not live, or even when we are. And we will see you in not too long, probably about half an hour for Series 2. See you then, guys.